6 months had transformed the Emperor of Mankind from mysterious stranger to living legend. His golden armor had become the most recognizable symbol in the Republic, more so than the Jedi robes, more potent than Senate seals. Children across 1,000 worlds wore crude imitations fashioned from painted plasteel. Artists carved his likeness into monuments that local governments alternately celebrated and nervously permitted. The Custodian Order's successes: 3 Sith cells eliminated, 17 corrupt officials exposed, 2 entire systems saved from economic collapse through strategic intervention, had created something the Republic had not witnessed in generations. Genuine hope that someone, somewhere, possessed both the power and will to actually solve problems. The Emperor walked through Senate District at dawn, when the city world's perpetual bustle quieted to something almost resembling peace. He required neither sleep nor sustenance in any conventional sense, so these hours belonged to observation, to understanding the rhythms of this civilization he had somehow become responsible for protecting. Vendors setting up their stalls bowed as he passed. Security officers saluted with a respect that transcended their official duty to Republic authority. A Twi'lek mother lifted her daughter to see him, whispering something the Emperor's enhanced hearing caught clearly. That's him, the one who keeps us safe. The weight of that faith pressed against his consciousness like a physical force. In his own galaxy, he had been Emperor of a species that understood his nature, genetically enhanced, psychically transcendent, the product of deliberate design rather than natural evolution. Here, they saw him as something approaching divine, a being who had arrived through cosmic providence rather than dimensional accident. The distinction mattered. Gods were worshipped, leaders were followed. The former bred dependency, the latter civilization. Master Lyranor appeared from a side street, her Jedi robes immaculate despite the early hour. She had taken to tracking him during these walks, not as surveillance, but as something closer to shared meditation. They rarely spoke, but her presence represented the Jedi Order's continued uncertainty about his existence, watchful, cautious, not quite trusting, but unable to dismiss the results he achieved. "The Council convenes today," she said, falling into step beside him. "There will be questions about your facilities, about what you're building in the lower levels." "I expected questions months ago," the Emperor replied. "Your Order's patience surprises me, or perhaps it's paralysis, uncertain whether to oppose me openly or continue the uncomfortable alliance we've maintained." "It's neither." Lyranor's voice carried the careful neutrality of someone navigating political minefields. "Master Over believes that open confrontation would fracture the Republic when unity is most needed, but he also believes that what you're building changes things, creates precedents that cannot be unmade. All meaningful change creates precedents." The Emperor paused before a memorial to Republic soldiers killed defending Coruscant during some long-ago war. Names carved in durasteel, weathered by centuries, forgotten by most who passed. "Your Order has held monopoly on Force user training for a millennium. You cannot conceive of alternatives that don't threaten your philosophical foundations, but alternatives exist whether you acknowledge them or not." "The Sith are an alternative," Lyranor countered. "Passion over peace, power over service. That path leads to suffering." False dichotomy. The Sith embrace chaos because they mistake passion for strength. The Jedi embrace detachment because they mistake serenity for wisdom. Both philosophies are incomplete, yet both claim to represent the only viable paths. I offer a third way: discipline without detachment, strength without corruption, service without philosophical constraint. They walked in silence past the Senate building, its massive dome gleaming in the rising sun. Somewhere in those halls, Chancellor Palpatine conducted the Republic's business with the measured efficiency that had made him popular among senators tired of gridlock. The Emperor had met Palpatine twice in official capacity. Formal exchanges of courtesy, discussions of custodian order operations, surface-level dialogue that revealed nothing substantive about the man behind the Chancellor's practiced smile. Yet something about those meetings had left the Emperor uneasy. Not through any dark side signature. Palpatine registered as Force Null in every scan, barely more sensitive than average citizens. Rather, it was the man's eyes. They watched with an intensity that suggested depths carefully hidden, calculations occurring behind every pleasant word. The Emperor recognized that gaze. He had seen it in his own reflection across 10,000 years of rulership, the look of someone playing games at scales others could not perceive. "The Chancellor has requested another meeting," Lyranor said, as if reading his thoughts. "He wishes to discuss expanding custodian order jurisdiction to the Outer Rim. Several systems have petitioned for your intervention in local conflicts." And the Jedi Council's position? Divided. Master Over opposes expansion. Master Joras sees strategic necessity. Master Khan argues we lack moral authority to deny help to those who request it. She paused. "I find myself agreeing with Khan, which troubles me. Since when do Jedi outsource their responsibilities to what?" the Emperor asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. "What am I, Master Lyranor? In your order's private councils, when you debate my nature, what conclusions do you reach?" The Jedi was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of confession. "We don't know. Some believe you're a Force entity given physical form, like the ancient Celestials. Others think you're from a galaxy where the Force manifests differently, where biology and mysticism merged into something we cannot categorize. A few," she hesitated, "a few believe you're exactly what you claim. A human who transcended normal limitations through science and will, proof that the Force is not the ultimate power in the universe. And that possibility terrifies your order more than any Sith threat," the Emperor observed. "Because if I can exist outside the Force's framework, if I can wield power without falling to light or dark, then your entire philosophical structure requires examination. The Jedi Code becomes one option among many, rather than the singular path to righteousness." "Yes," Lyranor admitted, "it terrifies us. Not because we fear being wrong, but because we fear what happens if countless Force sensitives pursue power without the Code's constraints. The galaxy would burn. Or," the Emperor said softly, "it would evolve, grow beyond ancient conflicts that have stagnated civilization for millennia, find new answers to old questions." They had reached the edge of Senate District, where orderly streets gave way to the vertical chaos of its residential sectors. Here, billions lived in towers that scraped the clouds, their lives constrained by economics and geography into patterns that would persist for generations. The Emperor saw potential in those masses, not subjects to rule but resources to develop, minds that could contribute to civilization if given proper tools and opportunities. In the distance, through gaps between buildings, he could see his orbital station. The Custodian Order's headquarters floated above Coruscant like a golden eye, watching, ready. Inside those walls, his recruits trained with methods that synthesized Jedi philosophy, military discipline, and principles from his own Imperium. They were not yet what he needed them to be, not Space Marines, not custodians in the true sense, but they were beginning, seeds planted in fertile ground. "The Council will send investigators," Lyranor warned, "formally to ensure your facilities comply with Republic genetic engineering regulations, actually to determine if you're building an army." "I am building an army," the Emperor replied without hesitation. "Not for conquest, but because this galaxy will need warriors capable of facing threats your Jedi cannot or will not engage. The Sith were merely the first test. Others will come. They always do. When they arrive, the Republic will be grateful for every soldier I train, every weapon I forge, every method I developed that keeps civilization intact. And if we're not grateful, if the Republic decides your army represents a greater threat than whatever enemies you claim to prepare for. The Emperor turned to face her fully, his golden eyes reflecting the morning sun with an intensity that made Lyranor instinctively reach for her lightsaber before catching herself. Then I will have failed to convince you that power and service are not mutually exclusive. That strength can be exercised in defense rather than domination. And I will leave, Master Lyranor. I will take my followers, my methods, my vision, and I will find some corner of this galaxy where principles matter more than politics. But I will not kneel. I will not dismantle what I have built to satisfy institutional paranoia. The Emperor of mankind bows to no authority except necessity itself. In the Senate building's highest tower, Chancellor Palpatine stood at his office window, watching the golden figure far below through macro binoculars. His face remained neutral, pleasant. The mask he had worn for decades maintained with such consistency that even he sometimes forgot where Palpatine ended and Sidious began. But behind his eyes, the Sith Lord's mind worked with the cold precision of a master strategist, recognizing the most dangerous piece on the board. The Emperor of mankind had done exactly what Palpatine needed, built popularity, demonstrated power, positioned himself as the Republic's savior. And now, the trap could begin closing. Not through assassination or direct confrontation. Such crude methods would martyr him. No, the Emperor would be destroyed through the very institutions he claimed to serve, turned from hero to threat through careful manipulation of the fear that worship always bred in those who did not receive it. Palpatine smiled, thin and cold, and activated his private comm. "Prepare the next phase," he said to the darkness on the other end. "Let us show the galaxy what happens when gods walk among mortals." The assassination attempt came 3 days later, during a routine Senate committee hearing on Outer Rim trade regulations. Senator Venn sat at her designated station, reviewing economic projections that would bore most politicians to tears, but which she found grimly fascinating. The data revealed patterns of systematic exploitation that had persisted for decades. She was composing questions designed to force uncomfortable admissions when she felt it. A disturbance, not in the Force. She possessed no sensitivity to that mystical field, but in the simple, primal awareness that prey animals develop when predators approach. The hair on her neck stood up. Her pulse quickened. She glanced around the committee chamber, searching for the source of her unease. 3 senators away, a Rhodian delegate named Tico moved with fractionally wrong timing. His hand drifted toward his robes with the casual motion of someone adjusting uncomfortable fabric. But Venn's political instincts, honed through 30 years of navigating Senate intrigue, recognized the gesture's true nature. She had seen it before, in security footage from assassination attempts, in training hollows that taught staffers to recognize threats. Tico was reaching for a weapon. Venn opened her mouth to shout warning, but Tico was already moving, his hand emerging with a compact blaster modified for Senate security bypass. The weapon tracked toward her with professional precision, and in that frozen instant before death, Venn understood with perfect clarity that this was not random violence. Someone had ordered her elimination. Someone wanted the Emperor of mankind's most visible Senate ally removed from the board. The blaster bolt never fired. The Emperor materialized between them, not running, not leaping, simply present where he had not been a microsecond before. His gauntleted hand caught the blaster mid-trigger pull, and the weapon crumpled like foil, its energy cell contained through some technique that prevented the catastrophic explosion such abuse should have caused. Tico stared at his crushed weapon, then at the golden giant who had appeared from nowhere, and his Rhodian features twisted with something that might have been relief. "Do it quickly," Tico whispered in accented basic. "My family. They promised my family." The Emperor's other hand moved, touching the Rhodian's temple with surprising gentleness. Tico's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed, unconscious but breathing. Around them, the committee chamber erupted into chaos. Senators scrambled for exits. Security forces converged with weapons drawn, uncertain whether to protect the Emperor or arrest him for whatever had just occurred. "Senator Venn is unharmed," the Emperor announced, his voice cutting through the panic with psychic-enhanced projection. "The assassin has been neutralized non-lethally. I recommend immediate medical evaluation. He displays symptoms of neural conditioning consistent with coerced action." Venn found her voice, though it came out shakier than she preferred. "How did you know?" "I only felt the threat seconds before." "I did not know." The Emperor's admission carried weight of truth. "I was monitoring this session remotely from my station, analyzing voting patterns and economic data. Then I felt your fear, a psychic spike that registered even at orbital distance. Teleportation at this range requires significant energy, but the alternative was unacceptable." Master Ovair arrived within minutes, accompanied by 4 Jedi Knights, whose lightsabers remained unignited but ready. The Syrian's elongated head tilted as he surveyed the scene. Unconscious Rhodian, crushed weapon, shaken senator, and the Emperor standing calm and unhurried in the center of it all. "You violated Senate security protocols," Ovair stated. "Teleportation into active government chambers is explicitly forbidden. The disruption to our sensors could have triggered automated defenses. Senator Venn would be dead if I had filed the appropriate request forms," the Emperor replied, his tone suggesting he found the entire concept of paperwork during emergencies absurd. "I will accept whatever sanctions the Senate deems appropriate for saving one of its members' lives." "That's not the point." "That is precisely the point, Master Ovair. This assassin knew my location before I arrived. Someone in this building, someone with access to my schedule and Senator Venn's committee assignments, provided intelligence to hostile forces. The Custodian Order's operations have been compromised from within the very institution we were created to protect." The implications settled over the chamber like physical weight. If the Senate itself harbored infiltrators capable of coordinating assassination attempts, then nowhere in the Republic's government could be considered secure. The Sith attack 6 months ago had been direct, violent, honest in its way. This was something more insidious, corruption that wore Republic credentials, betrayal dressed in democratic legitimacy. Venn steadied herself against her station's railing, her politician's mind already racing through ramifications. "The assassin said, 'They promised my family.' He was coerced, probably through hostage situation. We need to identify his handlers, trace the chain of command." "I can extract that information," the Emperor said quietly. Psychic interrogation would reveal everything he knows within minutes. But Master Ovair will object that such methods violate the subject's mental autonomy, that they constitute torture, regardless of their non-physical nature. Ovair's expression confirmed the accuracy of that prediction. The Jedi do not condone forcible mental intrusion. There are other methods: truth serums, careful questioning, analysis of his communications, which take weeks while his handlers eliminate evidence and relocate assets, the Emperor interrupted. "I understand your philosophical objection, Master. I even respect it. But I will not allow operational security to be sacrificed on the altar of ethical purity when lives hang in the balance. Senator Venn was targeted because she supports the Custodian Order publicly. Others who have shown similar support are likely on the same list. We need information now, not eventually." "Then we are at an impasse," Ovair said, his voice carrying the weight of irreconcilable principles colliding. "Because I cannot authorize what you propose, and you will not accept the delays that proper investigation requires." The Emperor studied the Jedi Master for a long moment, and Venn saw something in his golden eyes that she had not witnessed before. Not anger, not frustration, but a profound weariness that spoke of too many similar conversations across too many centuries. How many times had he faced this exact conflict? How many civilizations had demanded he choose between effective action and comfortable principles? "Then I will act without authorization," the Emperor said finally. "I will extract the information necessary to protect Republic officials from further assassination attempts. I will identify the infiltrators and eliminate the threat they represent. And when this crisis passes, the Senate can debate whether my methods were justified, hold hearings on proper procedure, censure me if it brings comfort. But the people I save will remain alive to participate in those debates." He lifted Tico's unconscious form with casual strength, cradling the Rhodian assassin as one might carry a sleeping child. "I am returning to my station. Any who wish to observe my interrogation methods are welcome to attend. Transparency does not require permission, only courage to witness uncomfortable truths." The Emperor vanished, taking Tico with him, leaving behind a chamber full of shaken politicians and increasingly concerned Jedi. Ven found herself breathing hard, adrenaline still coursing through her system, her analytical mind cataloging everything that had just occurred for the report she would need to file. Someone had tried to kill her. Someone in the Senate had provided the intelligence necessary to coordinate that attempt. And the Emperor of Mankind had just declared his intention to violate Republic law, to extract the information needed to prevent further attacks. She should have been horrified. Every principle of democratic governance she had spent 30 years upholding screamed that what the Emperor proposed was authoritarian overreach, the kind of precedent that eroded civil liberties until nothing remained except the arbitrary will of whoever held power. Instead, she found herself thinking, thank the Force he was watching. And that thought, that reflexive gratitude toward someone willing to break rules for expedient results, terrified her more than the assassination attempt itself. Master Ovair approached her station, his expression mixing concern and something that might have been pity. "Are you injured, Senator?" "Only my faith in institutions," Ven replied, surprising herself with the bitter honesty. "Someone in this building wanted me dead, Master Ovair. Someone we work alongside, someone who takes the same oaths we do, decided my life was an acceptable price for whatever agenda they serve. And the person who saved me is the one you're trying to restrain. Because power without constraint is tyranny, regardless of current intentions," Ovair said gently. "Today the Emperor saves you. Tomorrow he decides some senators' policy positions represent existential threats requiring elimination. The line between protector and oppressor is thin, Senator. Once crossed, it cannot be uncrossed. And yet we live in a galaxy where people cross that line constantly," Ven countered. "The Sith, criminal syndicates, corrupt officials who sell entire systems into bondage for the right price. At what point does philosophical purity become complicity in the suffering it refuses to prevent?" Ovair had no immediate answer. The question hung between them, unanswerable, because both perspectives held truth. Principles mattered, but so did results. Democracy required constraints on power, but survival sometimes demanded their temporary suspension. The tension between those needs had destroyed civilizations before. It would likely destroy this one too. In his private office high above the Senate chamber, Chancellor Palpatine reviewed security footage of the assassination attempt with apparent concern that masked profound satisfaction. The Emperor had performed exactly as predicted, appearing dramatically, demonstrating power, declaring his intention to act outside legal frameworks. Perfect. Every authoritarian impulse would be documented, analyzed, broadcast to populations increasingly uncertain whether their golden savior represented hope or threat. The Rhodian assassin had been sacrificed, of course. His family was already dead, killed hours before the attempt to ensure no leverage remained. But the Emperor didn't need to know that yet. Let him interrogate, let him discover the conspiracy's carefully constructed layers, let him follow the trail that Palpatine had designed to lead everywhere and nowhere. The game had entered its acceleration phase. Soon, the Emperor would make the mistake that all beings of such power eventually made, assuming his judgment superseded institutions, his vision transcended democracy, his strength justified unilateral action. And when that moment came, Palpatine would be ready to show the galaxy what happened to those who mistook worship for legitimacy. The Emperor's research facilities existed in Coruscant's sublevels, 3 kilometers beneath the gleaming Senate district, where sunlight had not reached in millennia. Here, in the perpetual twilight of the planet city's foundations, he had carved out spaces that reminded him of the laboratories on Terra, sterile, efficient, dedicated to the systematic improvement of human capability through science rather than mysticism. The entrance required passing through 7 security checkpoints, each employing technology the Republic's engineers would need decades to replicate: genetic verification, psychic resonance scanning, temporal displacement detection, measures designed to prevent infiltration by shapeshifters, force illusions, or any of the 1,000 methods beings in this galaxy employed to bypass conventional security. Only those the Emperor personally cleared could enter, and that list remained deliberately short. Inside, the facility sprawled across multiple levels connected by grav lifts that moved with silent precision. The main laboratory occupied the central chamber, a vast space illuminated by golden light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves rather than any visible source. Meditation pods lined one wall, their interiors visible through transparent panels that showed occupants suspended in nutrient solution, their bodies undergoing subtle enhancements while their minds trained through induced scenarios too dangerous to practice physically. Commander Drayson stood at a monitoring station, reviewing biometric data from the current batch of trainees. The Republic soldier had adapted well to his new role, his military pragmatism perfectly suited to the Emperor's methods. He glanced up as the Emperor entered, Tico's unconscious form still cradled in his arms. "Trouble in the Senate?" Drayson asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "An assassination attempt on Senator Venn. The perpetrator was coerced, his family held hostage by parties unknown. I need full psychic extraction, memories, contacts, conditioning protocols, everything that might identify his handlers." "That'll kill him," Drayson stated flatly. It was not protest, merely acknowledgement of fact. Deep psychic interrogation of an unwilling subject caused catastrophic neural trauma. The Emperor's methods were more refined than crude Sith torture, but the outcome remained similar. Complete extraction meant complete destruction of the subject's higher cognitive functions. It will not. The Emperor moved to a specialized medical bay, laying Tico on the examining table with surprising gentleness. "I have performed such extractions thousands of times. The technique is delicate, but effective when properly executed. He will wake with headache and memory gaps surrounding the actual assault, but his core personality will remain intact." Kale Thross emerged from one of the meditation chambers, his robes still damp from the nutrient solution. The stump where his left arm had been replaced by a cybernetic limb that gleamed with the same golden hue as the Emperor's armor. The former Jedi had volunteered for augmentation immediately after Dromund Kaas, arguing that losing an arm proved the insufficiency of traditional Jedi training. Better to embrace enhancement than pretend flesh alone could face the galaxy's true threats. "The Council will cite this as evidence you're building weapons, not warriors," Karl observed, gesturing at the facility around them. "Genetic manipulation, cybernetic enhancement, induced psychological conditioning. It looks like everything the Jedi warn against." "Because the Jedi mistake tools for corruption," the Emperor replied, beginning the delicate process of establishing psychic connection with Tico's unconscious mind. "They believe that modifying the body somehow damages the soul, that augmentation represents moral compromise. Yet they have no objection to prosthetics for those who lose limbs in combat. They accept Bacta healing that accelerates tissue regeneration far beyond natural rates. Their philosophy is inconsistent, They permit some enhancements while condemning others based on arbitrary distinctions between natural and artificial that collapse under scrutiny. The laboratory's other occupants gathered to observe. 17 individuals in total, drawn from across the Republic, former Jedi who had left the Order, soldiers who had survived campaigns that destroyed their units, scientists who had reached the limits of what Republic institutions would permit them to explore. Each had volunteered for the Emperor's program after understanding its full implications. No coercion, no deception. Simply the offer to become more than biology alone allowed. The Emperor's consciousness sank into Tico's mind like a surgical instrument penetrating tissue. The Rhodian's thoughts were fragmented, chaotic, shaped by months of neural conditioning that had rewritten his personality at fundamental levels. The Emperor navigated through those alterations with the precision of someone who had designed similar techniques, unraveling each layer of programming to expose the authentic memories beneath. Images flickered through the connection, visible to the Emperor alone, but narrated for his audience's benefit. Subject was approached 4 months ago by an intermediary, human male, unremarkable features, claiming to represent a mutual aid society that could help with the subject's gambling debts. The society arranged debt forgiveness in exchange for minor favors, voting specific ways on certain bills, providing schedule information about Senate sessions. The Emperor's voice remained clinical, detached, even as he witnessed Tico's gradual descent into unwilling treachery. Escalation occurred 3 weeks ago. The society kidnapped the subject's family, mate and 2 offspring. Conditioning began immediately, neural reprogramming using Sith techniques modified through Republic medical technology. Fascinating synthesis. Whoever designed this protocol understood both traditions intimately. Drayson's hands clenched on his monitoring station. Can you identify the intermediary? Get a clear visual? The subject never saw his true face. Disguises, holographic manipulation, voice modulation. But the conditioning's architecture. The Emperor paused, his golden eyes narrowing with recognition. I have seen this pattern before. In my own galaxy, psychers who served the ruinous powers employed similar methods, rewriting personality while preserving functional capability, creating sleeper agents who believed themselves willing participants until activation. Sith work? Kale asked. Sith adjacent. The dark side's fingerprints are evident, but diluted, as if whoever designed this wanted to maintain plausible deniability. Not crude corruption that any Jedi would immediately sense, but subtle influence that registers as normal cognitive function unless examined with specific intent. The Emperor's expression hardened. This is not the work of Darth Ruin's surviving followers. This represents a different philosophy entirely. Patient, methodical, willing to sacrifice individual agents to maintain operational security. He withdrew from Tico's mind carefully, severing the connection with precision that left the Rhodian's consciousness intact, but exhausted. Tico would wake in several hours with gaps in his memory and profound confusion about recent events, but he would wake. The Emperor had kept his promise, extraction without destruction. The conspiracy extends deep into Senate infrastructure, the Emperor announced to his assembled followers. Multiple sleeper agents, all conditioned through similar protocols, all believing themselves voluntary participants in legitimate political movements. The architecture suggests a single mastermind with access to both Sith knowledge and Republic resources, someone positioned to manipulate both traditions without allegiance to either. "Do we report this to the Jedi Council?" asked Dr. Seren Cole, a human geneticist who had joined the facility after the Republic Ethics Board shut down her research into Force-sensitive gene expression. "Or directly to the Senate?" "Both are compromised," the Emperor replied. "Some council members will dismiss this as paranoia designed to justify my increasing authority. Some senators are likely among the conditioned agents. We require independent verification, and that means investigating personally. The Jedi won't permit that, Kyle warned. They'll cite jurisdiction, demand you surrender your evidence, insist on proper procedures that give the conspirators time to cover their tracks. Then the Jedi will be disappointed. The Emperor moved to the laboratory's central holographic display, with known locations of suspicious activity highlighted in amber. I did not come to this galaxy to defer to institutions that demonstrably fail to protect their own populations. The Custodian Order exists precisely because traditional authorities proved insufficient. We will investigate. We will identify the conspiracy's architects, and we will eliminate them before they can orchestrate further attacks. That's vigilantism, Drayson observed, though his tone carried approval rather than condemnation. Operating outside legal frameworks, taking action based on personal judgment of threat. Everything the Senate fears about you. Yes. The Emperor's acknowledgement was simple, unadorned by justification or apology. I am what the Senate fears, power that does not require their permission to act, authority that derives from capability rather than democratic mandate, judgment that supersedes committee consensus. But I am also what they need, whether they understand that or not. This conspiracy will not be stopped through proper channels. It will be stopped through decisive action by those willing to bear the moral weight of necessary violence. The facility's door chimed, proximity alert indicating visitors at the outermost security checkpoint. The Emperor's enhanced senses identified them before any monitor could display their faces. Jedi, 5 of them, led by Master Over himself, accompanied by a Republic Special Investigations Unit whose authority to enter any facility superseded normal privacy protections. They're here to shut us down, Kyle said, his hand drifting reflexively toward where his lightsaber would have hung before he left the Order. The Council finally decided we represent a greater threat than whatever good we accomplish. Not shut down, the Emperor corrected. Investigate. They lack legal authority to cease our operations without evidence of criminal activity. But they can inspect, question, document everything they find here. And what they find? He gestured at the meditation chambers, the genetic sequencing equipment, the cybernetic fabrication units. Will confirm every fear they harbor about my intentions. Do we resist? Drayson asked, his military training already calculating tactical options for defending the facility. We cooperate. The Emperor's decision was immediate, definitive. I will not fire the first shot in a conflict with the Jedi Order. They are misguided, constrained by philosophy that renders them inadequate to emerging threats. But they are not enemies. Not yet. Let them inspect. Let them document. Let them conclude whatever their limited perspective permits. The truth of what we build here will be validated through results, not arguments. He moved toward the facility's entrance with the confidence of someone who had nothing to hide because he had done nothing wrong, not by his own moral framework at least. The others followed, uncertain whether they were about to witness diplomatic cooperation or the first battle in a war none of them wanted but all increasingly expected. Master Over stood at the final security checkpoint, his Syrian features composed in the careful neutrality that characterized Jedi dealing with situations they found uncomfortable but couldn't yet justify opposing with force. Behind him, the Special Investigations team carried scanning equipment designed to detect everything from illegal weapons to genetic modification that violated Republic bioethics codes. Emperor, Over began, his voice carrying formal weight. The Jedi Council has received reports that this facility engages in activities that may violate Republic law regarding genetic manipulation and unauthorized force-sensitive training. We are here to conduct inspection pursuant to Senate Resolution 8847, which grants Jedi authorities oversight of any organization claiming jurisdiction over Force matters. The Custodian Order does not claim jurisdiction over Force matters, the Emperor replied. We claim jurisdiction over existential threats to Republic stability. That some of those threats employ the Force does not grant your order monopoly over response. But I will not waste time debating legal technicalities. You wish to inspect my facility? Then inspect. You will find exactly what I have never attempted to hide. Warriors being trained through methods your philosophy cannot accept, but your practical needs desperately require. He stepped aside, gesturing for them to enter. Welcome to the future of galactic defense, Master Auvert. I suspect you will find it deeply troubling. I hope that discomfort eventually transforms into understanding, but I will not pause my work waiting for your order's approval. The Jedi entered the facility, their expressions shifting from neutrality to shock as they witnessed what the Emperor had built. Not an army, not exactly, but something that might become one. Enhanced warriors who treated the Force as science rather than religion, who saw power as a tool to be refined rather than a gift to be cherished, who had chosen augmentation over purity because survival mattered more than philosophy. The inspection had begun, and with it, the final severing of whatever fragile alliance had existed between the Emperor of mankind and the institutions of the Republic he had tried to serve. Master Auvert stood before a meditation chamber, his reflection distorted in the transparent panel that separated him from the trainee suspended within. A young human woman, perhaps 20 standard years, floated in nutrient solution with cybernetic implants visible along her spine, neural interfaces that glowed with soft amber light as they fed data directly into her cortex. Her eyes moved rapidly beneath closed lids, experiencing some training scenario the chamber induced through controlled stimulation of her Force sensitivity. This is Initiate Mara Seln, Kale Thross explained, his former Jedi training making him the natural liaison between the Emperor's methods and the Council's concerns. She was rejected by the Jedi Temple at age 12, midi-chlorian count too low for traditional training. She spent 8 years struggling to manifest even basic Force abilities through self-study. 3 weeks in the Emperor's program, and she can lift objects 10 times her body weight, sense hostile intent at 50 meters, and maintain perfect calm under simulated combat stress. Through artificial enhancement, Auvert said, his voice tight with disapproval. You have bypassed natural development, forced growth that should take years of meditation and discipline. What happens when those implants fail, when her body rejects the augmentation? Then we repair or replace them, Kale replied with a pragmatism that would have been heretical during his time as a Jedi Knight. The same way you would repair a damaged limb or treat an illness. Why is technology that compensates for biological limitation somehow less legitimate than the genetic lottery that determines midi-chlorian count at birth? Master Lyrina moved through the genetics laboratory, her fingers hovering over equipment she recognized from Kaminoan cloning facilities, but modified in ways that suggested purposes beyond simple replication. You are altering genetic structures, she said, activating a display that showed DNA sequences being systematically edited, enhancing Force sensitivity at the cellular level. This is illegal under 17 different Republic statutes. Statutes written by people who fear what they cannot control, Dr. Seren Cole countered from her workstation. She was a woman in her 50s, her hair grey from years spent in laboratories, her eyes bright with the passion of someone finally permitted to pursue research she considered vital. The Republic permits genetic screening to eliminate diseases. It allows selective breeding programs for agricultural enhancement. But the moment someone suggests applying those same principles to improve human capability, suddenly it becomes unethical. Why? Because if we admit that biology is not destiny, we must confront the uncomfortable truth that inequality is often artificial, maintained by those who benefit from others' limitations. Lyranor stared at the geneticist with something approaching horror. You speak of people as crops to be optimized, as raw material to be improved according to someone's design. That philosophy led to the Clone Wars, to creating sentient beings explicitly for warfare. We fought to establish that life has intrinsic value beyond utility. And I agree completely, Cole replied, her voice carrying conviction that surprised the Jedi Master. Every being in this facility volunteered. They understood the risks, the implications, the reality that what we do here changes them fundamentally. But they also understood that the galaxy does not care about intrinsic value when Sith Lords hurl Force lightning or when criminal syndicates enslave entire populations. Survival requires capability, and capability can be enhanced through science. The question is not whether we should enhance, but who controls that enhancement and for what purpose. The third Jedi in Over's inspection team, a Zabrak knight named Master Voss, discovered the combat training chambers in the facility's lowest level. Here, the Emperor's recruits sparred with intensity that made traditional Jedi training look gentle by comparison. No practice sabers, no pulled strikes. These warriors fought with lethal intent, their blows stopped only by enhanced reflexes and armor designed to absorb punishment that would cripple unaugmented humans. Voss watched a match between Commander Drayson and a Twi'lek woman whose Leku bore cybernetic augmentation that enhanced her sensory perception. They moved with speed that blurred the eye, trading strikes that rang against armor with sounds like thunder. But what disturbed Voss most was not the violence. Jedi trained in combat too, but the complete absence of restraint. These warriors fought as if every sparring match were actual battle, as if holding back represented failure rather than courtesy. "You train them to kill," Voss said as the Emperor entered the observation chamber. "I train them to survive," the Emperor corrected, "which sometimes requires killing, yes. The galaxy contains threats that cannot be reasoned with, cannot be redeemed through patient dialogue or careful diplomacy. Your order's insistence on restraint is admirable, but it renders Jedi inadequate against enemies who view mercy as exploitable weakness. And so you create warriors without conscience, soldiers who follow orders without questioning their morality." The Emperor's laugh was cold, brief. "Quite the opposite. Every individual here possesses more conscience than a dozen Jedi, because they carry responsibility for their actions without hiding behind Force guidance or council edicts. When they kill, it is not because the Force wills it, or because their masters commanded it. It is because they evaluated the situation, determined that killing was necessary, and accepted the moral weight of that choice. That is not absence of conscience. That is its fullest expression." Over rejoined them, his inspection complete, his expression mixing frustration and reluctant admiration. "You have built something unprecedented," the Syrian master admitted. "Warriors who blend Force training with technological enhancement, who operate outside traditional frameworks while maintaining discipline that rivals Jedi standards. In isolation, much of what you do here violates Republic law, yet the aggregate purpose appears genuinely defensive, designed to protect rather than conquer." "Appears?" The Emperor's tone carried dangerous edge. "Master Over, I have spent 6 months proving my intentions through action. Every threat I have eliminated, every corrupt official I have exposed, every crisis I have diffused, all serve the Republic's interests, not my own aggrandizement. At what point does consistent behavior become evidence rather than mere appearance?" "When we understand what you ultimately want," Over replied with surprising candor. "You claim to serve the Republic, yet you build military capability independent of its control. You speak of defending civilization, yet you reject the democratic processes through which civilized societies determine defense policy. You present yourself as custodian rather than conqueror, but custodians eventually claim ownership of what they protect. History is littered with benevolent dictators who began with noble intentions. History is also littered with democracies that collapsed because they could not make hard decisions quickly enough," the Emperor countered. "The Republic faces threats that move faster than Senate committees can debate. The Jedi Order, for all its wisdom, cannot be everywhere simultaneously. The Custodian Order fills that gap, not as replacement for existing institutions, but as necessary supplement to their inadequacies. And who decides when institutions are inadequate? Lyranor asked, joining the confrontation. Who determines that democratic slowness justifies authoritarian efficiency? You, Emperor, based on your judgment alone? Based on results, the Emperor said flatly. When Senate debate results in dead civilians, it is inadequate. When Jedi philosophy prevents necessary action, it is inadequate. When existing institutions demonstrably fail to protect populations they claim to serve, alternatives become mandatory rather than optional. The chamber fell silent, the only sound the distant impacts of continued sparring below. The philosophical divide between them was absolute. The Jedi believed in institutional authority tempered by Force wisdom, while the Emperor believed in individual capability bound by personal responsibility. Neither could convince the other, because their fundamental premises about power's proper exercise remained irreconcilable. Finally, Ovair spoke with the weariness of someone delivering news he wished he could avoid. The Council will require you to cease genetic enhancement programs pending full Republic Ethics Board review. Existing augmentations may remain, but no new modifications until proper oversight can be established. I refuse. The Emperor's response was immediate, absolute. Then you place yourself in direct opposition to Republic law, Ovair warned. The Senate will have no choice but to issue arrest warrants, to treat your order as criminal organization operating outside legal frameworks. Let them try. The Emperor's voice carried no threat, no anger, only certainty that any attempt to arrest him would fail catastrophically. I will not cease work that saves lives because bureaucrats uncomfortable with my methods demand compliance. If the Republic wishes to oppose me, let them send their soldiers. Let them witness firsthand what happens when democratic slowness confronts existential urgency. Kyle stepped forward, his cybernetic hand raised in pacifying gesture. Masters, there must be compromise available. Increased transparency, perhaps. Regular inspections, public reporting of enhancement protocols, independent medical review to ensure volunteer consent. Compromise is not the issue, Ovair interrupted. The issue is authority. The Emperor claims to operate in the Republic's interest while refusing to submit to Republic authority. That is not partnership. That is occupation by someone who happens to be benevolent at the moment. Then what would you have me do? The Emperor's question carried genuine curiosity rather than rhetorical challenge. Dismantle what I have built? Cease training warriors who will defend populations your order cannot reach? Wait for the next Sith incursion while Senate committees debate appropriate response frameworks? Tell me, Master Ovair, what is your alternative to my methods? Patience, Ovair replied. Trust in institutions. Faith that democracy, however flawed, represents the best system for governing diverse populations across vast distances. Belief that short-term inefficiency is preferable to long-term tyranny. Beautiful philosophy, the Emperor acknowledged. Utterly useless when Sith assassins target senators or when criminal syndicates enslave entire systems while your institutions debate jurisdiction. I have lived long enough to watch beautiful philosophies collapse under contact with ugly realities, Master. I will not repeat that mistake here. He turned to address his assembled followers, these warriors and scientists who had chosen augmentation over purity, efficiency over tradition. The Jedi Council will report their findings to the Senate. Political forces will align for or against us based on calculations that have nothing to do with our actual effectiveness. We will face sanctions, restrictions, possibly active opposition. None of this changes our mission. We train, we prepare, and when the next threat emerges, as it inevitably will, We will defend this republic, whether or not it grants us permission to do so." The Jedi departed in silence, their inspection complete, their report already taking shape. Master Auvert paused at the facility's entrance, looking back at the Emperor with an expression mixing regret and resignation. "I believe you mean well," he said quietly. "I believe you genuinely wish to protect rather than conquer. But I also believe that power concentrates, that good intentions erode under pressure, that you will eventually become the very thing you claim to oppose. I hope I am wrong, but history suggests otherwise." "History is written by those who survive," the Emperor replied. "I have survived for 38,000 years, Master Auvert. I have seen civilizations rise and fall, have witnessed the consequences of both action and inaction, have learned through bitter experience that sometimes the choice is not between good options and bad ones, but between terrible options and catastrophic ones. When you have lived as long as I have, when you have carried responsibility for billions across millennia, then you may lecture me about power's corrupting nature. Until then, your philosophies remain theoretical. Mine are proven through survival." The facility's massive doors sealed behind the departing Jedi with finality that felt symbolic. The Emperor stood motionless, calculating how long before Auvert's report reached the Council, how quickly political forces would mobilize in response. "They will move against us," Drayson observed. "Maybe not immediately, but the groundwork is laid. We are officially a problem requiring solution." "Yes," the Emperor agreed. "And the solution they choose will determine whether this republic survives the next decade or collapses into chaos that makes the Sith Wars look gentle by comparison." Far above, in his Chancellor's office, Palpatine received Master Auvert's preliminary report through encrypted channels that officially did not exist. He read the summary with satisfaction that he permitted himself only in absolute privacy. The Emperor was building an army, operating outside Republic control, refusing to submit to institutional authority. Perfect. Every detail confirmed what Palpatine needed the Senate to believe, that their golden savior was actually an emerging tyrant whose power threatened the democratic foundations of galactic civilization. The trap's next phase could proceed exactly as designed. Chancellor Palpatine addressed the Galactic Senate with the gravitas of a leader bearing burdens too heavy for comfortable bearing. His Naboo robes were immaculate, his expression carefully calibrated to project concern rather than alarm, wisdom instead of fear. Around him, 3,000 senators waited in their repulsor pods, the vast spherical chamber silent with the tension that Palpatine had cultivated through careful manipulation of procedural timing and strategic leaks to key delegates. "My fellow senators," he began, his voice amplified through the chamber's acoustics with perfect clarity. "6 months ago, we welcomed a being of extraordinary power into our republic. We granted him authority to form an organization dedicated to protecting our civilization from threats both external and internal. The Custodian Order, under the leadership of the Emperor of Mankind, has achieved remarkable results, eliminating Sith cells, exposing corruption, saving lives that would otherwise have been lost to violence or neglect." Palpatine paused, allowing the positive assessment to settle. Several senators nodded approval, their expressions reflecting genuine gratitude for the Emperor's interventions. Outer Rim delegates particularly showed enthusiasm. Their systems had benefited most from custodian operations, seeing protections that Republic military forces rarely provided. "However," Palpatine continued, his tone shifting with subtle mastery, "we must also confront uncomfortable truths about power and its proper exercise in democratic society. The Jedi Council has submitted a comprehensive report regarding the Emperor's facility. I will not summarize their findings in detail. Full documentation is available for your review, but several points require immediate attention." The holographic display activated, showing images from the Jedi inspection. meditation chambers with suspended figures undergoing enhancement, genetic laboratories where DNA sequences were systematically modified, combat training that looked more like actual warfare than practice. The visuals had been carefully selected by Palpatine's staff, not falsified, but curated to emphasize the most disturbing elements while omitting contextualizing explanations. The Emperor operates genetic enhancement programs that violate 17 Republic bioethics statutes, Palpatine stated, his voice heavy with reluctant judgment. He has created warriors through methods that blur the line between volunteer soldiers and manufactured weapons. He trains Force sensitives outside Jedi oversight using techniques that the Council describes as unprecedented and potentially destabilizing to traditional understanding of Force philosophy. Senator Orn Freetar rose in his pod, his multiple chins quivering with indignation that was, for once, not entirely performative. Are we to believe the Emperor poses threat to the Republic? After 6 months of exemplary service, this sounds suspiciously like institutional jealousy, the Jedi uncomfortable that someone demonstrates superior effectiveness. Murmurs of agreement rippled through delegates from systems that had benefited from custodian intervention. Palpatine allowed the dissent, even encouraged it, through subtle body language that suggested he shared their frustration. The appearance of balanced consideration served his purposes better than obvious bias. "I share your concern, Senator Tarr," Palpatine replied with apparent sincerity. "The Emperor's results cannot be dismissed. He has saved lives, prevented atrocities, demonstrated capabilities that exceed conventional forces. But we must ask ourselves, at what cost? And more importantly, what precedent do we establish?" He activated a second display, this one showing testimony from the Jedi inspection. Master Over's careful words about authority and submission, Lyra Nor's concerns about genetic manipulation, observations about warriors trained without philosophical restraint. Again, the presentation was selective, but not dishonest. Every quote was accurate. The manipulation lay in what was excluded rather than what was included. The Emperor refuses to submit to Republic oversight, Palpatine continued. When instructed to cease genetic enhancement pending ethics review, he refused outright. When asked to explain his long-term intentions, he speaks of necessity superseding democratic process. When confronted about concentrating military power outside institutional control, he argues that results justify methods. Senator Venn rose in her pod, her voice sharp with challenge. "Chancellor, you present these facts as if they constitute evidence of malicious intent, but every point could equally demonstrate pragmatic leadership unencumbered by bureaucratic delay. The Emperor saved my life 3 days ago when Sith assassins struck in Senate chambers. Should he have filed appropriate paperwork before intervening? No one suggests the Emperor lacks noble intentions," Palpatine replied smoothly. "But history teaches us that noble intentions without institutional restraint invariably lead to tyranny. Today, he operates in our interest. Tomorrow, when our interests diverge from his judgment, what recourse do we possess? He has made clear that he will not submit to Republic authority when he deems that authority inadequate. That is not partnership, Senator Venn. That is occupation by someone who happens to be benevolent at the moment." The phrasing was deliberate, an echo of Master Over's exact words from the inspection report. Palpatine understood the power of having Jedi concerns legitimized through his own voice, creating the appearance that his assessment derived from external expert analysis rather than personal agenda. Senator Mot Not Rab, a Trandoshan whose conservative instincts made him predictably useful, seized the opening Palpatine had provided. "The Chancellor speaks wisdom. We cannot permit any individual, regardless of demonstrated effectiveness, to operate military forces outside Republic command structure. This violates fundamental principles of democratic governance. Yet those principles have failed to protect Outer Rim populations for decades," countered Senator Karde of Bakura, a human woman whose system had recently benefited from custodian intervention against pirate attacks. Perhaps the problem is not that the Emperor operates outside our control, but that our control has proven inadequate to galactic security needs. The Senate erupted in argument, conservatives versus pragmatists, core world senators versus outer rim delegates, those who feared authoritarian power versus those who valued effective results. Palpatine allowed the chaos to build before calling for order, his practiced timing ensuring maximum emotional investment before resolution. "Senators, please." His voice cut through the cacophony with authority earned through months of careful political positioning. This debate illuminates the fundamental tension we face. The Emperor represents power that transcends our normal categories, too effective to dismiss, too independent to control, too foreign to our political traditions to easily accommodate. We must decide, as a body, how the Republic relates to such power. He paused, allowing anticipation to build. "I propose a compromise. We do not revoke the custodian order's authorization. Their effectiveness speaks for itself. But we establish clear oversight mechanisms, independent inspectors with unrestricted access to all facilities, regular reporting requirements to this Senate, explicit limitations on genetic enhancement until Ethics Board review concludes, and most importantly, formal acknowledgement that custodian forces operate under Republic authority, subject to Senate veto when their actions conflict with democratic will." It was masterful maneuvering, appearing reasonable while proposing restrictions the Emperor would inevitably reject. Palpatine knew from intelligence reports that the Emperor viewed oversight as interference, that he would refuse limitations on methods he considered necessary, that formal submission to Senate authority contradicted his fundamental nature. The proposal was designed to fail, but its failure would demonstrate exactly what Palpatine needed: that the Emperor valued his independence over cooperation with Republic institutions. Senator Venn recognized the trap immediately. "Chancellor, these provisions sound reasonable in isolation, but their aggregate effect would cripple the custodian order's operational effectiveness. Independent inspectors with unrestricted access, that compromises security. Regular reporting, that telegraphs strategy to any infiltrators monitoring Senate communications. Senate veto power, that introduces the very bureaucratic delays the order was created to bypass." "Then what do you propose, Senator?" Palpatine asked with apparent genuine interest. "How do we balance the Emperor's effectiveness against the Republic's need for democratic accountability?" Venn hesitated, recognizing that any answer she provided would either betray the Emperor or validate Palpatine's concerns. The Chancellor had framed the question perfectly, treating independence and accountability as mutually exclusive, rather than potentially complementary values. Before Venn could formulate response, the chamber's doors opened without mechanical operation. They simply swung wide through force manipulation so powerful that every Jedi present felt it like physical pressure. The Emperor of Mankind strode into the Senate chamber, his golden armor blazing under the dome's illumination, his presence radiating authority that made elected officials instinctively straighten in their pods. "Chancellor Palpatine," the Emperor said, his voice carrying without amplification to every corner of the vast space. "I monitored your address. I heard your concerns, and I come to address them directly rather than allow my position to be misrepresented through careful omission and strategic framing." Palpatine's expression remained neutral, but something flickered behind his eyes, surprised that the Emperor had arrived so quickly, calculation about how to turn this unexpected appearance to advantage. "Emperor, you are always welcome to address this body, though I must note that unannounced appearances during active Senate sessions violate protocol that matters less than truth," the Emperor interrupted, moving to the chamber's center with strides that somehow conveyed both purpose and restraint. "You present my refusal to submit to oversight as evidence of authoritarian intent. Let me clarify my position with complete transparency. He turned slowly, his gaze sweeping across 3,000 senators, and each felt the weight of that attention, as if he addressed them personally. I do not refuse oversight because I fear exposure of wrongdoing. Every action I have taken, every method I have employed, every enhancement I have authorized, all are documented, available for review by anyone possessing security clearance and genuine desire to understand rather than condemn. Then you will accept the proposed oversight mechanisms? Palpatine asked, knowing the answer but requiring it to be stated publicly. No. The Emperor's refusal was simple, unadorned. Because your proposed mechanisms are not oversight but obstruction. Independent inspectors with unrestricted access. That compromises operational security when we know this Senate contains infiltrators. Regular reporting of strategy. That provides our enemies with intelligence about custodian operations. Senate veto power over military action. That introduces delays that cost lives during crisis response. Then you admit you place your judgment above this democratically elected body. Senator Mott Not Rab declared with triumph he could not quite suppress. I admit that democracy, however noble in principle, proves inadequate when facing threats that move faster than committees can convene, the Emperor replied. You wish to debate whether genetic enhancement violates bioethics codes while Sith assassins murder your colleagues. You want to hold hearings about proper procedure while criminal syndicates enslave entire systems. You demand accountability that satisfies political philosophy, while populations you claim to represent die waiting for you to finish deliberating. The chamber fell silent, the accusation too blunt to ignore, too accurate to easily dismiss. Palpatine recognized opportunity in the Emperor's candor. Let him speak freely. Let him reveal his fundamental contempt for democratic process. Let senators witness his arrogance firsthand. You describe democracy as obstacle rather than foundation, Palpatine observed, his tone suggesting patient disappointment. As if the will of trillions expressed through their elected representatives matters less than your personal assessment of necessity. That is the philosophy of every dictator in galactic history, Emperor. Good intentions paired with certainty that individual judgment supersedes collective wisdom. And collective wisdom has produced this republic, the Emperor countered, gesturing broadly at the chamber around them. A government that permits core worlds to prosper while outer rim systems suffer neglect. That maintains Jedi as peacekeepers while granting them no authority to actually keep peace. That debates endlessly while problems metastasize from manageable to catastrophic. Your collective wisdom is paralyzing inaction dressed as careful deliberation. Then leave, Senator Orn Freetar shouted, his earlier support evaporating in the face of such direct criticism. If you find our republic so inadequate, depart. Take your order, your enhanced warriors, your foreign philosophies, and find some other galaxy to save. The Emperor turned his full attention to the Twi'lek senator, and Tar physically recoiled from the intensity of that golden gaze. Is that what you want? For me to abandon populations I swore to protect because their government finds my methods uncomfortable? Shall I leave Senator Venn to face the next assassination attempt alone? Shall I permit the next Sith incursion to proceed uncontested while your committees debate appropriate response? Shall I watch this republic collapse because maintaining your comfort proved more important than ensuring survival? You speak as if you alone can save us. Palpatine interjected, his voice carrying gentle rebuke. As if, without your intervention, the republic must inevitably fall. That arrogance, Emperor, that certainty of indispensability, is more dangerous than any external threat we face. The two beings locked eyes across the chamber, one in golden armor radiating power that transcended normal categories, the other in simple robes projecting authority earned through political mastery. For a moment that stretched uncomfortable, they measured each other with complete attention, two players recognizing that this exchange represented something more significant than immediate debate. The Emperor spoke quietly, but his words carried to every ear. "You are correct, Chancellor. I cannot save the Republic alone, but I can provide tools, methods, warriors capable of defending what you lack strength or will to protect yourselves. The question facing this Senate is not whether I represent threat to your authority. I demonstrably do. The question is whether that threat is worse than the alternative." He moved toward the chamber's exit with deliberate slowness, giving senators time to absorb his presence, his words, the fundamental challenge he represented to their entire political order. At the threshold, he paused. "I will continue my work regardless of this body's approval. I will train warriors you consider weapons. I will employ methods you find uncomfortable. I will act when you debate, decide when you deliberate, and accept the moral weight of those actions because someone must. When the next crisis comes, and it will come sooner than you imagine, you will be grateful for my arrogance, or you will be dead, your beautiful democratic principles buried with you." The Emperor departed, and the Senate chamber erupted into chaos that Palpatine made no immediate effort to contain. Perfect. Let them argue, let them fracture, let them conclude that their golden savior was actually an emerging tyrant. Every moment of this debate served his purposes, turning worship into suspicion, admiration into fear, gratitude into resentment. The seeds were planted. Soon they would yield exactly the harvest he required. The Peace Summit on Naboo was Chancellor Palpatine's idea, presented to the Senate as opportunity for reconciliation between Republic factions increasingly divided over the Emperor's role. Representatives from across known space gathered at Theed's royal palace. Senators, Jedi Masters, military commanders, corporate leaders, even representatives from neutral systems observing Republic politics with concern. The stated purpose was dialogue about galactic security frameworks that could accommodate both democratic oversight and operational effectiveness. The actual purpose, known only to Palpatine and his most trusted operatives, was something else entirely. The Emperor accepted the invitation despite recognizing its political theater nature. Senator Venn had argued for attendance, suggesting that refusing would validate accusations of contempt for democratic process. Master Lyranor, in rare moment of pragmatic alliance, agreed. The summit offered opportunity to demonstrate willingness to work within institutional frameworks, even if those frameworks remained fundamentally inadequate. So the Emperor came to Naboo, accompanied by a minimal security detail, Kale Thross, Commander Drayson, and 3 custodian operatives whose augmentations made them more capable than entire Republic security companies. They arrived via his personal transport, a vessel modified with technologies that made Republic engineers simultaneously fascinated and alarmed. Theed's palace was magnificent, its classical architecture a monument to civilization's highest aesthetic achievements. Sweeping colonnades overlooked waterfalls that fell hundreds of meters into misty valleys. Gardens maintained through centuries of careful cultivation demonstrated that beauty and function could coexist. The summit took place in the Grand Assembly Hall, a circular chamber with transparent ceiling that allowed natural sunlight to illuminate proceedings. 300 delegates filled the hall, their conversations creating background murmur that suggested nervous anticipation. The Emperor's arrival silenced them. His golden armor seemed to gather and amplify Naboo's sunlight, creating an effect that was not quite force manipulation, but produced similar awe. He moved to his designated position, with Commander Drayson flanking him, Kyle taking position among the Jedi delegation, despite no longer officially belonging to their order. Chancellor Palpatine stood at the central podium, his expression welcoming, his body language suggesting genuine desire for productive dialogue. "Emperor, thank you for joining us. Your presence demonstrates commitment to cooperation that some have questioned. I came because populations this summit represents deserve to witness honest discussion about their protection," the Emperor replied. "Not political theater designed to manufacture predetermined conclusions." Palpatine's smile never wavered. Then let us have that honest discussion. The Jedi Council has concerns about your methods. The Senate requires clarification about your long-term intentions. Military commanders want to understand how custodian forces integrate with Republic strategic planning. These are reasonable questions from institutions that must function long after individual leaders depart. Agreed. Ask your questions. I will answer with complete honesty, though I suspect my answers will satisfy no one because they require accepting uncomfortable truths about power's proper exercise. Master Over rose from the Jedi section, his Syrian features composed in careful neutrality. Emperor, you have stated that the Jedi Order's philosophy renders us inadequate to emerging threats. Yet we have maintained peace for 1,000 years. What makes you certain that your methods represent improvement, rather than merely different approach with different flaws? The Emperor considered the question with genuine respect for its substance. Because your 1,000 years of peace was built on Sith absence, not Jedi capability. When real darkness returned, your order proved insufficient. I do not blame you for this. Your philosophy was designed for peacekeeping, not warfare. But pretending that peacekeeping and warfare are the same threatens survival when genuine conflict emerges. And so you would have us become warriors? Over asked. Abandon the code that prevents us from falling to darkness ourselves. I would have you recognize that the code is a tool, not a revelation. That it serves specific purposes under specific conditions. That when conditions change, tools must adapt or become obsolete. The Emperor paused. But I do not expect the Jedi to change. Institutions rarely do. That is why the Custodian Order exists, to provide alternatives when traditional methods prove inadequate. A Republic Admiral, Terek Voss, stood from the military delegation. You speak of alternatives, but you coordinate with our strategic command only when convenient for your operations. How are we to plan galactic defense when a significant military force operates independently of our authority? By accepting that not all threats require fleets and formal declarations of war, the Emperor replied. The Custodian Order handles surgical operations, eliminating specific threats quickly before they metastasize. We do not replace Republic military forces. We supplement them, acting in situations where your command structure's necessary bureaucracy would introduce fatal delays. That is not supplementation, Voss countered. That is competition. Two military authorities claiming jurisdiction over the same security space, answering to different chains of command, pursuing potentially conflicting objectives. Only if you insist that all military authority must flow through Republic hierarchy, the Emperor said. That assumption, that legitimacy requires democratic mandate, is the fundamental disagreement we cannot resolve. You believe power derives from consent. I believe power derives from capability, and consent merely determines whether that power is exercised tyrannically or in service. Senator Karda of Bakura rose, her expression troubled. You describe philosophy that terrifies me, Emperor, even as I acknowledge that your actions have protected my system when Republic forces could not. But what happens when your judgment about service diverges from our assessment? Who arbitrates that disagreement? Reality, the Emperor replied simply. If my actions genuinely serve populations I claim to protect, reality will validate my judgment through results. If I become the tyrant you fear, reality will turn populations against me. I do not require your permission to act, but neither can I compel your loyalty if my actions prove unworthy of it. The summit continued for 3 hours, questions and answers that circled the same fundamental, irreconcilable positions. The Emperor would not submit to oversight that compromised operational effectiveness. The Republic could not grant blank check authority to forces outside democratic control. Both positions held philosophical validity. Neither offered practical compromise. Palpatine watched from his podium, occasionally interjecting to guide discussion toward productive channels, appearing throughout like reasonable mediator attempting to bridge unbridgeable gaps. His performance was masterful, suggesting without stating that the Emperor's intransigence rather than institutional inflexibility prevented resolution. Then, during a brief recess, the Emperor felt it. A disturbance in the Force unlike anything he had encountered in this galaxy. Not the straightforward malevolence of Sith darkness, but something twisted, hybrid, dark side energy merged with technological systems in ways that reminded him of the warp's corruption bleeding into real space. His enhanced senses traced the signature to multiple points beneath the Grand Assembly Hall, power sources that pulsed with contained violence waiting for activation. "Evacuate," the Emperor said quietly to Commander Drayson. "Now, this entire facility is rigged with force-reactive explosives." Drayson's military training prevented any visible reaction beyond slight tension in his shoulders. "How much time?" "Minutes, perhaps less. Whoever designed this waits for optimal moment. Maximum casualties, maximum symbolic impact." The Emperor's mind raced through tactical options. Standard evacuation would require 10 minutes minimum, too long if his assessment of timing was accurate. Attempting to disarm devices he barely understood risked premature detonation. The only viable option was absorption and redirection, containing the blast through sheer force of will and channeling its energy away from the assembled delegates. It would require power expenditure that would leave him vulnerable afterward, would demonstrate capabilities he had deliberately kept partially concealed, would create exactly the kind of dramatic incident that Palpatine could exploit for political purposes. But 300 delegates would live, and that calculation superseded all strategic concerns. Kale felt the Emperor's sudden tension through their training bond. "What's wrong?" "Trap. Force-reactive explosives beneath us, about to..." The devices activated simultaneously, their detonation synchronized with precision that spoke of expert engineering and intimate knowledge of palace architecture. 47 explosive charges converted matter to energy with efficiency that should have vaporized the Grand Assembly Hall and everyone in it. The blast wave expanded at velocities approaching light speed, carrying death in every direction. The Emperor moved faster. His consciousness expanded to encompass the entire chamber, his psychic might wrapping around the explosion like hands grasping fire. The Force, still somewhat alien to his warp-trained senses, responded with reluctant cooperation, not flowing through him naturally, but bending to his will through sheer overwhelming pressure. He contained the blast, compressed it, forced energies that should have destroyed everything into a single point of concentrated destruction. Then he redirected it skyward, through the chamber's transparent ceiling, into Naboo's atmosphere where it could dissipate harmlessly against vacuum and radiation shields. The golden light that erupted from his armor during this exertion lit the hall like a second sun, casting shadows that seemed to have weight and substance. But containment was imperfect. The Emperor could not capture all the explosive force, could not redirect every particle of the blast wave. Perhaps 5% of the total energy escaped his grasp, bleeding through his psychic barriers in directions he could not control fast enough to prevent. One of those directions was upward at an angle 23 degrees from his intended channel, where a Jedi transport hovered on landing approach, carrying 14 Jedi Knights returning from mission in the Outer Rim. The escaped energy struck the transport's shields with force sufficient to overload generators designed to withstand capital ship weapons. The vessel's armor held for almost 2 full seconds before catastrophic failure propagated through structural members. Then the transport simply ceased to exist as coherent object, its mass converted to expanding debris field and 14 Jedi Knights converted to the Force itself. The Emperor felt each death. 14 conscious minds winking out of existence in an instant, their final moments seared into his awareness through the psychic connection he had established to contain the explosion. Not his fault, not directly. He had tried to save them along with everyone else. but accident or intention mattered less than outcome. 14 Jedi were dead, killed by energy signature that registered as his power, destroyed in the course of his intervention. The Grand Assembly Hall stood intact, its 300 delegates alive and largely unharmed beyond shock and minor injuries from thrown debris. The Emperor stood at the chamber's center, his armor smoking from heat stress, his psychic reserves depleted to dangerous levels, his consciousness struggling to process the catastrophic failure that had turned salvation into tragedy. Chancellor Palpatine rose from where the blast had thrown him, his Naboo robes singed, but his expression carefully composed. What happened? Assassination attempt, the Emperor managed, his voice carrying exhaustion that beings of his capability should not experience. Force-reactive explosives, Sith work but modified. I contained the blast, but some energy escaped. The transport. He could not finish the sentence. Master Over's face went white as he sensed the deaths through the Force. The knights from Ryloth, all dead. Your energy signature killed them. The assassins' explosives killed them, the Emperor corrected, but his voice carried no conviction. I saved 300 here by sacrificing 14 I could not protect quickly enough. You chose, Over said, horror and accusation mixing in his tone. You made calculation about whose lives mattered more. That is not how Jedi. That is exactly how Jedi would fail in the same situation. The Emperor interrupted, anger bleeding through exhaustion. You would have hesitated, debated, sought perfect solution that saved everyone. And while you deliberated, all 314 would have died. I made the only choice available. Save who I could save, mourn those I could not. But even as he spoke, the Emperor knew how this would appear, how footage would show his power destroying a Jedi transport, how investigators would discover he had been aware of the explosives but chosen not to evacuate, how Palpatine would frame this as proof that the Emperor's methods cost innocent lives, that his judgment proved inadequate, that power without institutional oversight inevitably produced catastrophe. The trap had worked perfectly. Palpatine had saved 300 delegates while simultaneously demonstrating the Emperor's danger. The cost of 14 Jedi lives was acceptable, perhaps even preferable, since Jedi deaths would galvanize the Order against the Emperor in ways that Senator casualties would not. As Republic security forces secured the chamber and medical teams treated the injured, as Jedi Knights arrived to recover their fallen comrades' remains, as journalists recorded everything for broadcast across the galaxy, Chancellor Palpatine stood at his podium and made brief statement that would be repeated on every news channel for days. Today we witnessed both the Emperor's power and its price. 300 lives saved, 14 lost. We are grateful for the former, grieving for the latter, and cognizant that both outcomes stem from the same source. One individual whose judgment determines who lives and who dies. The Republic must ask itself, is this the galaxy we wish to inhabit? The Emperor heard those words and understood with perfect clarity that his time operating within Republic frameworks had ended. Palpatine had engineered not just his political downfall, but the psychological break that would drive him from institutions he had tried to serve. The question now was not whether he would leave, but whether that departure would be exile or conquest. The holovid footage played on endless loop across every news network in the Republic. The Emperor, armor blazing with golden fire, standing at the center of an explosion that should have killed hundreds, energy cascading upward in brilliant columns that pierced Naboo's sky. And then, in the upper corner of the frame, the Jedi transport, a brief flash, structural failure, debris falling like metal rain. The narrator's voice carried practiced neutrality that somehow emphasized every damning detail. 14 Jedi Knights perished in what officials are calling a tragic miscalculation by the Emperor of Mankind, while Chancellor Palpatine and 299 delegates survived due to the Emperor's intervention. Questions mount about whether alternative methods might have prevented any casualties. The footage cut to Master Over, his Syrian features drawn with grief barely contained. The Emperor made a choice, a calculation about whose lives held more value. That 14 Jedi died while politicians lived will haunt the Order for generations. We do not question his power. We question his right to make such judgments unilaterally. Senator Motnot Rab appeared next, his Trandoshan scales seeming darker in the harsh studio lighting. This tragedy validates every concern about concentrating power in one being's hands. The Emperor acted without consultation, without oversight, and 14 beings paid the ultimate price for his arrogance. How many more will die before we acknowledge that good intentions without accountability produce catastrophe? The Emperor watched the broadcasts from his orbital station, Commander Drayson standing silent vigil beside him. They had been reviewing the footage for 6 hours, the Emperor's enhanced mind analyzing every frame, searching for evidence of the conspiracy he knew existed but could not yet prove. The explosive signatures were wrong, too sophisticated for standard Sith techniques, showing engineering principles that suggested Republic military expertise merged with dark side sorcery. Whoever designed those devices knew exactly how you would respond, Drayson observed. They calculated the blast radius, anticipated your containment method, positioned the Jedi transport precisely where energy overflow would occur. This was not assassination attempt. This was demonstration, proof that your power creates collateral damage. Chancellor Palpatine, the Emperor said quietly, the name carrying weight of recognition. I felt him during the explosion, not his presence. He registers as Force null in every scan, but his satisfaction, his complete lack of surprise when the transport exploded. He knew, he orchestrated this entire summit to create exactly this outcome. That's a serious accusation, Drayson warned. The Chancellor is the Republic's democratically elected leader. Suggesting he murdered 14 Jedi to discredit you will sound like paranoid conspiracy theory. Because it is a paranoid conspiracy theory, the Emperor acknowledged with bitter humor. That it also happens to be true changes nothing. I have no proof beyond psychic intuition that this galaxy's institutions do not recognize as legitimate evidence. Palpatine has operated for years, perhaps decades, without detection. He will not be exposed through conventional investigation. Kale Thross entered the command center, his cybernetic arm moving with fluid precision that still occasionally startled those unfamiliar with the Emperor's enhancement techniques. The Jedi Council has issued formal statement. They are suspending cooperation with the Custodian Order pending full investigation of the Naboo incident. Master Over personally requested that I return to the temple for questioning about my involvement in your organization. Will you go? The Emperor asked. No. Kale's response was immediate, certain. I left the Order because their philosophy proved inadequate. Recent events only confirm that assessment. They would rather preserve institutional purity than acknowledge that you saved 300 lives. The 14 deaths are tragedy, but treating them as moral failure rather than inevitable cost of imperfect options is philosophical cowardice. The station's proximity alarms chimed. Incoming vessels, multiple signatures, Republic military transponder codes. The holographic display showed a fleet of cruisers and frigates, 47 ships in total, positioning themselves in orbital perimeter around the custodian station. Not quite blockade formation, but unmistakably military posture that suggested enforcement action rather than diplomatic visit. They're moving faster than anticipated, Drayson muttered, his hands already working tactical displays. Admiral Voss commands the fleet personally. That's significant. He's by-the-book military. Wouldn't be here unless the Senate issued formal orders. The communication system activated without anyone aboard the station initiating contact. Republic override codes forcing the connection. Admiral Voss appeared in holographic form, his weathered features showing discomfort with his assigned mission. Emperor of mankind, I am transmitting under authority of Senate Emergency Resolution 9214. You are hereby ordered to surrender yourself and all custodian personnel for detention pending investigation of criminal negligence resulting in the deaths of 14 Jedi Knights. You have 1 standard hour to comply before I am authorized to enforce this order through military action. The Emperor studied the Admiral's projection with something approaching sympathy. Admiral Voss, we spoke at the summit. You struck me as competent officer uncomfortable with political manipulation. Do you genuinely believe I acted with criminal negligence? Or do you recognize that you are being used to eliminate someone whose effectiveness threatens institutional authority? Voss's expression tightened. My beliefs are irrelevant. The Senate has issued lawful orders. I am bound to execute those orders regardless of personal opinion. Will you surrender peacefully? No. The Emperor's refusal carried no anger, only certainty. I will not submit to prosecution by institutions I know to be compromised. The explosives on Naboo were placed by conspirators operating within Republic government. The summit was designed specifically to create circumstances where my intervention would appear criminally negligent. Chancellor Palpatine orchestrated this entire sequence to manufacture justification for my removal. Those are extraordinary accusations, requiring extraordinary evidence, Voss replied. Evidence you cannot provide, which is convenient when deflecting responsibility for your own failures. Convenient, yes, also true. The Emperor moved to his station's primary tactical display, which showed the surrounding fleet in perfect detail, ship positions, weapon loadouts, shield configurations, crew complements. Admiral, I respect your commitment to duty, but I will not allow that commitment to be weaponized against galactic security. If you attempt enforcement action, I will disable your fleet, not destroy. I have no desire to kill Republic service members following orders they believe legitimate. But I will demonstrate so conclusively the futility of opposing me that further military action becomes politically impossible. Voss's face flushed with anger he struggled to contain. You threaten Republic military forces? That is act of war, Emperor. Whatever sympathy you might have retained after Naboo will evaporate if you fire on ships defending democratic authority. I do not threaten. I promise. The Emperor's voice carried neither pride nor malice, only statement of fact. Your fleet cannot compel my surrender. Attempting to do so will result in disabled ships, humiliated officers, and confirmation that institutional authority has no leverage over me. Better to report that I refused surrender and departed voluntarily than to demonstrate your impotence through failed enforcement. I have my orders, Voss repeated, but his voice carried less conviction. The Admiral was military professional. He had reviewed intelligence reports about Dromund Kaas, about the custodian order's capabilities, about what the Emperor had accomplished against Sith forces. He understood, perhaps better than Senate politicians, that the being he faced could probably execute every threat he made. Then execute them, Admiral. I will wait the full hour as courtesy, giving your superiors time to reconsider this catastrophically misguided course of action. But when that hour expires, I am leaving Coruscant with my personnel, my equipment, and my determination to continue protecting populations this Republic demonstrates itself increasingly unable to serve. The communication terminated. Voss's hologram dissolved, leaving the Emperor alone with his core team. Drayson, Kale, Senator Venn, who had arrived during the exchange, and the handful of custodian operatives who represented his vision's earliest converts. You're actually going to fight the Republic, Venn said, her voice mixing disbelief with resignation. Everything you built over 6 months, all the trust you cultivated, the carefully maintained position as loyal opposition, you're throwing it away. It was never mine to throw away, the Emperor replied. Palpatine has been engineering this outcome since my arrival. Every success I achieved, Every threat I eliminated, every method I employed that demonstrated effectiveness beyond institutional capabilities, all of it threatened his carefully constructed political position. He cannot defeat me militarily, so he defeats me politically. Makes me choose between submission that would neuter the custodian order or defiance that brands me as threat to democracy. False choice, Kale observed. Both options serve his purposes, which is why I choose a third option. Departure without submission, demonstration of power without massacre, establishment of independent authority that operates outside Republic jurisdiction, but continues pursuing the same protective mission. The Emperor activated displays showing star charts of the Outer Rim, regions where Republic authority existed mostly in theory. We relocate to territories beyond Senate's practical reach. We continue our work protecting populations that institutional inadequacy abandons, and we prove through results that principles matter more than politics. Ven shook her head slowly. You describe secession, creating rival authority structure that claims legitimacy through capability rather than democratic mandate. That's exactly what every authoritarian in history has done, arguing that the people need protection from their own governing institutions. Yes, the Emperor agreed without hesitation. Because sometimes the people do need such protection. Not always, not as permanent condition. But when governments become so compromised that they murder their own protectors to preserve power, when institutions value procedure over results so completely that thousands die waiting for committee approval, alternatives become necessary. Not because democracy is inherently wrong, but because this specific democracy has failed. The hour counted down in tense silence. Republic news networks broadcast live footage of the standoff, 47 military vessels surrounding one orbital station. The galaxy's attention focused on whether the Emperor would surrender, or whether he would demonstrate that military force could not compel compliance from beings of sufficient power. Chancellor Palpatine appeared in emergency Senate session, his expression grave, his words carefully calibrated. We stand at a crossroads. If the Emperor surrenders, we prove that no individual exists above Republic law. If he resists, we prove that power without democratic legitimacy ultimately chooses tyranny over service. Either outcome teaches lessons, though one comes at far higher cost. The Senate voted, final tally displayed for all to witness. 2,147 in favor of enforcement action, 753 opposed. Democracy had spoken. The Republic demanded the Emperor's submission or elimination. The hour expired. Admiral Voss, honoring his orders despite personal misgivings, gave the command. All ships, weapons hot. Prepare to fire on my mark. Target the station's shield generators. Disable rather than destroy. We take them intact if possible. The Emperor's station responded with systems the Republic fleet could not quite categorize. Not weapons, not exactly. More like reality manipulation that treated physics as suggestions rather than laws. 47 ships simultaneously experienced identical malfunctions. Navigation systems failed. Weapon targeting locked into error states. Communications reduced to static. Engine cores entered emergency shutdown that would require hours to reverse. The fleet hung helpless in space, crews unharmed but their vessels reduced to expensive debris, unable to maneuver, unable to fight, unable to do anything except watch as the Emperor's station activated drives that should not exist and accelerated away from Coruscant at velocities that violated every known principle of subliminal travel. Voss sat in his command chair, staring at displays that showed his entire fleet disabled in less than 30 seconds, and spoke words that would be quoted in military academies for generations. He could have killed us all, destroyed 47 ships with every hand aboard. Instead, he made us watch while he left. That is not the action of a tyrant. That is the action of someone who has stopped caring whether we understand him. The Emperor's station jumped to hyperspace, its destination unknown to Republic tracking systems. With him went the Custodian Order, 17 enhanced warriors, 3 dozen support personnel. Senator Venn, who had made the snap decision that serving the Emperor's vision mattered more than maintaining Senate position and equipment that represented the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. On Coruscant, in his Chancellor's office, Palpatine allowed himself a smile of genuine satisfaction. The Emperor was gone, branded as threat to democracy, operating outside Republic protection. Perfect. Now the real work could begin, consolidating power while the Republic's attention focused on the golden enemy who had rejected their authority. The Sith had just gained the breathing room needed to transform the Republic into something far more useful. And the Emperor, despite his power and wisdom, had played his part exactly as Palpatine required. The pieces were moving into endgame positions. The holographic news broadcasts followed the Emperor's departure with obsessive attention that turned him from controversial figure into galactic phenomenon. Every network devoted continuous coverage to what commentators called the Golden Exile, analysis of his final words, speculation about his destination, debates about whether he represented hope or threat. Public opinion fractured along predictable lines. Core world populations, comfortable in their Republic security, generally viewed the Emperor's defiance as proof of authoritarian tendencies. Outer Rim systems, long neglected by institutional protection, saw him as the only authority figure who had ever actually defended their interests. The division was not merely political, it represented fundamental disagreement about power's proper relationship to democratic legitimacy. Chancellor Palpatine addressed the Senate 3 days after the departure, his speech carefully constructed to appear conciliatory, while reinforcing the narrative of dangerous power, rejecting reasonable oversight. The Emperor's flight demonstrates what we feared, that capability without accountability inevitably chooses independence over cooperation. We do not celebrate his departure, but neither can we ignore the message his actions send. That might makes right, that individual judgment supersedes collective wisdom, that democracy exists only until someone powerful enough decides otherwise. The Senate chamber, still being repaired from the assassination attempt on Senator Venn, filled with murmurs of agreement. Palpatine had positioned the Emperor perfectly, not as villain to be destroyed, but as cautionary tale about power's corrupting nature. The fact that the Emperor had disabled an entire fleet without casualties somehow made him more threatening, not less. It suggested capability so overwhelming that military force could not contain him. However, Palpatine continued, his tone shifting to something almost regretful. We must also acknowledge that the Emperor's departure leaves vacuum. The Custodian Order, for all our concerns about its methods, eliminated threats that our traditional forces struggled to address. Sith cells operated with impunity before his arrival. Corruption flourished unchecked. We cannot simply return to previous inadequacy and hope problems resolve themselves. Senator Card rose in her pod, her expression troubled. Chancellor, are you suggesting we create alternative to the Custodian Order? Some new organization with similar mandate but proper oversight? Precisely, Palpatine replied with practiced enthusiasm. We need response force that combines the Emperor's operational efficiency with democratic accountability. I propose the Senate authorize formation of specialized security units, operatives trained in unconventional warfare, granted emergency powers during crisis response, but answering directly to Senate oversight committees. We take what worked about the Custodian Order while eliminating what made it dangerous. The proposal was brilliant political maneuvering. Palpatine was creating the infrastructure for what would eventually become his inquisitorious, force-sensitive operatives loyal to central authority rather than Jedi philosophy, trained to hunt threats that traditional forces could not engage. But he presented it as democratic response to the Emperor's authoritarian example, as Republic learning from mistakes rather than copying them. Senator Mott Not Rab, ever reliable in his conservative instincts, voiced the obvious concern. These units would require force-sensitive recruits, The Jedi Order maintains monopoly on such training. Do we truly wish to create rival Force-using authority? The Jedi have demonstrated limitations, Palpatine said, his tone suggesting reluctant acknowledgement of uncomfortable truth. Their philosophy emphasizes peace when the galaxy requires warriors. Their code restricts actions that crisis demands. We need operatives who can do what Jedi cannot or will not, eliminate threats decisively, operate in moral gray areas that peacekeepers find uncomfortable, accept that sometimes survival requires methods that violate philosophical purity. Master Over, attending the session as Jedi representative, rose from his delegation. Chancellor, you described creating dark side users under Republic authority. That path leads to corruption far worse than any threat the Emperor represented. The Jedi Code exists precisely to prevent Force users from becoming weapons wielded by political entities. Then perhaps the code requires examination. Palpatine replied gently. I do not suggest abandoning it entirely, Master Over, but the Emperor demonstrated that Force users can operate outside light-dark dichotomy while maintaining discipline. Perhaps that represents evolution rather than corruption. The exchange continued for hours, senators debating oversight mechanisms, Jedi protesting philosophical violation, military officers calculating strategic implications. Palpatine guided the discussion with masterful subtlety, allowing opposition to exhaust itself against his carefully constructed reasonableness. By session's end, the Senate had authorized preliminary planning for specialized security units, their exact nature and oversight to be determined through committee process. The first foundation stones of the Empire were being laid, disguised as democratic response to perceived authoritarian threat. Meanwhile, in deepest sublevels where even Republic authority rarely penetrated, something stirred in darkness that predated the city's construction. The Emperor's confrontation with Darth Ruin 6 months ago had seemingly ended the Sith threat. The Dark Lord's body had been destroyed, his consciousness scattered, his followers eliminated or driven into hiding. But Sith did not die easily. Not when they understood techniques that Jedi considered forbidden. In a chamber that had once served as Sith temple during the Old Republic era, before the planet became entirely urbanized, preserved corpses that should have rotted millennia ago began showing signs of animation. Not natural life that had departed these vessels long before, but dark side energy, concentrated and directed by will that refused final dissolution, inhabiting flesh that should have been dust. Darth Ruin reformed, his body reassembled from spare parts and Sith alchemy. His consciousness pulled back from the dark side's depths through techniques he had discovered in ancient holocrons. The resurrection was imperfect. His new form was patchwork, held together by hatred and arcane power rather than natural biology. But it was functional. It would serve. Around him, 6 other figures rose, Sith acolytes who had died in the Emperor's purges, now recalled to serve their master once more. They were even less complete than Ruin, their minds damaged by death and resurrection, their personalities reduced to basic drives of anger and obedience. But they remembered how to kill. That was sufficient. The Golden Tyrant has fled, Ruin spoke, his voice rasping through reconstructed vocal cords. The Republic fears him. The Jedi oppose him. He stands alone, believing himself too powerful to require allies. Perfect. We will demonstrate that even emperors can be humbled when they abandon the protection of institutions they despise. One of the resurrected acolytes, a Zabrak whose horned skull showed signs of the trauma that had killed him, managed fragmented speech. Master, where? Find him. The Outer Rim, Ruin replied, consulting intelligence that his surviving agents had gathered. He seeks to establish independent authority far from Republic oversight. He will gather followers, build installations, demonstrate through results that his methods work better than democratic compromise. Let him. Let him achieve just enough success to believe himself secure. Then we strike, not at him directly, but at what he values, his followers, his facilities, the populations he claims to protect. Ruin's resurrection was not miracle, but calculation. Someone had provided the knowledge, the resources, the dark side energy necessary to recall him from death. Someone who understood that the Emperor needed enemies to justify his authoritarian impulses, who recognized that Ruin's obsessive hatred made him perfect weapon to drive the Emperor further from Republican institutions. In his Chancellor's office, Palpatine felt the disturbance through the Force, subtle ripple that Jedi across would attribute to normal dark side background radiation in a planet-sized city. But he knew its true meaning. Darth Ruin had been restored, exactly as planned. The pieces were aligned beautifully. The Emperor would face renewed Sith attacks in the Outer Rim, would respond with methods that Republic observers found increasingly disturbing, would gradually transform from controversial protector to obvious threat. And when the moment was right, when the galaxy had been properly prepared, Palpatine would offer himself as the only authority capable of bringing order to chaos. Democratic leader forced by necessity to assume emergency powers to counter threats from both independent warlords and resurgent Sith. The Clone Wars had served this purpose in another timeline. In this one, the Emperor of Mankind would serve it instead. Different pieces, same endgame. In the Outer Rim, the Emperor's station emerged from hyperspace above a world the Republic had forgotten. Taris, once a thriving ecumenopolis, but now mostly ruins following bombardment during ancient Jedi-Sith conflicts. The planet still held infrastructure, still offered resources, still housed populations trying to rebuild civilization from ashes of wars fought millennia ago. It was perfect for the Emperor's purposes, far from Republic authority, populated by beings accustomed to self-reliance. Infrastructure that could be rehabilitated through methods that wouldn't work on established worlds. Here, he could demonstrate what governance looked like when effectiveness mattered more than procedural legitimacy. The station descended toward Taris's most intact district, its drives allowing vertical landing that Republic technology could not achieve. Local warlords who controlled various ruins watched its approach with weapons ready, uncertain whether this represented invasion or opportunity. The Emperor had faced similar situations 1,000 times across his own galaxy. Populations divided by conflict, traumatized by violence, suspicious of authority, but desperate for security. He would show them an alternative to both Republic inadequacy and warlord exploitation. He would build something worth protecting. Commander Drayson reviewed tactical displays showing Taris's political landscape. 17 major factions, dozens of minor gangs, populations numbering perhaps 5 million across the ruins. This will take years to stabilize, maybe decades. We have 17 warriors and 40 support personnel. The numbers don't work. We're not stabilizing through military conquest, the Emperor replied, his golden eyes reflecting determination that had sustained him across 38,000 years. We're stabilizing through demonstrated value. We establish presence, defend populations that accept our protection, show through results that our methods work. Others will come, refugees from Republic failures, followers convinced by example rather than rhetoric, warriors seeking purpose beyond institutional service. The Imperium Reborn begins not with empire, but with city, not with conquest, but with construction. Kyle studied the planet below, its ruins visible from orbit as geometric patterns breaking the natural landscape. The Jedi will say we're building tyranny. The Senate will call it illegal colonization. Palpatine will use this as proof we threaten galactic order. Let them, the Emperor said simply. Their words matter only if populations believe them. We will provide security that Republic cannot, justice that Senate will not, opportunity that existing authorities have denied. Reality will be our advocacy, results our defense. Senator Venn, who had sacrificed her political career to follow this vision, approached with datapad showing communication intercepts from Republic space. Chancellor Palpatine addressed the Senate. He's proposing specialized security forces modeled on our methods but with proper oversight. He's turning your organization into template for something else. Of course he is, the Emperor replied, unsurprised. Palpatine understands power's logic better than most politicians. He cannot defeat me, so he copies me while framing the copy as democratic alternative. Eventually, those specialized units will become his personal enforcers, loyal to his authority rather than Senate oversight. But that process will take years. We have time to establish our alternative before his plans mature. The station touched down in Taris's central district, its landing creating crater in Duracrete that had seen 10,000 years of neglect. The Emperor emerged first, his golden armor visible for kilometers, his presence radiating authority that needed no explanation. Around him, the custodian orders personnel began establishing perimeter, setting up equipment, preparing to build civilization from ruins. Local warlords approached cautiously, their weapons ready but not raised. They had seen the station's capabilities during descent, understood that attacking would be suicide. Their leader, a scarred Cathar woman named Kreia, who commanded the largest faction, stopped 10 meters from the Emperor with expression mixing suspicion and desperate hope. "You're the one they call the Golden Emperor," she stated, "the one who defied the Republic. Are you here to conquer Taris? Because we've been conquered before. It never ends well." "I'm here to rebuild Taris," the Emperor replied, "not as Republic colony or personal fiefdom, but as demonstration that effectiveness serves better than politics. You and your people can join this work, benefit from protection and resources we provide, or you can oppose it and watch while others prosper from cooperation. You refused. Your choice, but choose quickly. This galaxy grows darker, and only those willing to build in light will survive what comes." Kreia studied him with eyes that had witnessed too much violence, too many promises broken, too many authorities that proved worse than the problems they claimed to solve. But she also saw something in this golden giant that she had not encountered before. Certainty without arrogance, power without cruelty, authority that invited participation rather than demanded submission. "What do you need from us?" she asked. "Labor, knowledge, patience," the Emperor replied. "In exchange, I offer security, resources, governance that serves rather than exploits. The Imperium Reborn begins here, with choice rather than conquest, with builders rather than soldiers. Will you help build it?" Kreia looked back at her followers, at the ruins they called home, at the galaxy that had abandoned them decades ago. Then she looked at the Emperor, at his warriors, who stood ready but not threatening, at the possibility that maybe, this time would be different. "We'll help," she said. "But if you betray us like the Republic did, like every other authority has, we will fight you, and we'll keep fighting until one side is dead." "Fair terms," the Emperor acknowledged. "I would expect nothing less from people who survived what you have survived. Begin with small trust. Let results build larger faith, and when the galaxy learns what we built here, they will understand that alternatives to both democracy and tyranny exist for those willing to forge them." In darkness beneath Senate levels, Darth Ruin felt the Emperor's presence establish itself in the outer rim. The Dark Lord smiled with resurrected lips, his hatred focused and purified by death and return. "Build your empire, golden tyrant," he whispered to the void. "Make it strong, make it valuable, give me target worthy of destroying. And when I come for you this time, I come not to convert, but to eliminate. You humiliated me once. That mistake will cost you everything." The hunt had begun again. And this time, the prey was distracted by dreams of building rather than focused on threats still gathering in shadow. The attack came 3 months after the Emperor established his foothold on Taris. 3 months of carefully rebuilding infrastructure, training local militias, establishing governance frameworks that combined efficiency with consent. 3 months during which populations across 6 neighboring systems began petitioning for similar protection, seeing in Taris's transformation what the Republic had failed to provide for generations. 3 months that Darth Ruin spent gathering strength, studying the Emperor's patterns, preparing an assault designed not to defeat him, that remained beyond current capability, but to wound him in ways that power alone could not heal. The Sith struck at dawn, when Taris's reconstructed central district bustled with morning commerce. 7 resurrected Sith, their bodies held together by dark side alchemy and hatred, materialized through force techniques that bypassed every security sensor the Emperor had installed. They did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They simply began killing. Civilians died first, vendors setting up market stalls, children walking to newly established schools, workers beginning their shifts in factories the Emperor had restored to function. The Sith moved through crowds with methodical efficiency, their lightsabers carving through unarmored bodies with ease that made the slaughter almost casual. They were not trying to draw the Emperor's attention through dramatic confrontation. They were demonstrating that his protection meant nothing when enemies possessed sufficient will and hatred. Commander Drayson responded within seconds, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to reach the market district before most victims understood they were under attack. He found Darth Ruin standing atop a merchant's collapsed stall, his resurrected form radiating dark side energy that made Drayson's force-attuned senses scream warnings. The Golden Tyrant's lapdog, Ruin observed, his voice carrying corruption that death and resurrection had introduced. "Where is your master? Does he hide in his fortress while we slaughter those he promised to protect?" Drayson raised his blaster, military-grade weapon enhanced with custodian modifications, and fired 3 shots in rapid succession. Ruin deflected them with casual lightsaber work, the crimson blade moving with precision that suggested muscle memory transcended death. Around them, the other Sith continued their systematic massacre, their damaged minds focused on single purpose: kill until stopped. "He's coming," Drayson replied, already knowing the Emperor would have felt the dark side's presence the moment it manifested. "And when he arrives, your resurrection will prove temporary." "We do not fear death," Ruin replied. "We have already experienced it. What can your Emperor do to us that the Void has not already accomplished?" The answer came as golden light that seemed to tear through reality itself. The Emperor materialized in the market's center, his armor blazing with power that made the early morning sun seem dim by comparison. He did not speak, did not threaten. He simply acted with the decisive violence of someone who had watched too many innocents die to waste time on dialogue with mass murderers. His sword, forged from materials this galaxy could not fully analyze, powered by principles that blended psychic might and physical force, swept through the nearest Sith acolyte with efficiency that suggested routine rather than effort. The resurrected Zabrak dissolved, his alchemically preserved body unable to maintain cohesion when its dark side bindings were severed so completely. The other acolytes converged on the Emperor with mindless aggression that their damaged resurrections had reduced them to. They fought with skill that decades of training had burned into reflexes deeper than conscious thought, their lightsabers seeking vital points with precision that would have challenged Jedi masters. The Emperor killed them in 17 seconds, not through overwhelming power, though he possessed that, but through martial expertise refined across millennia against enemies far more dangerous than damaged Sith revenants. Each strike was economical, surgical, aimed at disrupting the dark side energies that held resurrected flesh together rather than merely damaging physical forms. When those 17 seconds concluded, 6 Sith lay truly dead, their second deaths permanent because the Emperor understood their nature thoroughly enough to prevent third resurrections. Darth Ruin remained, watching his acolytes fall with expressions suggesting satisfaction rather than dismay. "Magnificent," he said, his corrupted voice carrying genuine appreciation. "You fight with purity of purpose I have rarely witnessed. No hesitation, no mercy, no pretense that these beings might be redeemed. Simply recognition of threat and its elimination. You would have made extraordinary Sith, Emperor." "I have faced worse than Sith," the Emperor replied, his sword still blazing with power as he advanced on Ruin with measured steps. "Entities who fed on galaxies, who rewrote reality with thought, who corrupted civilizations through promises that sounded reasonable until too late. You are pale shadow compared to the ruinous powers of my galaxy. Dangerous, yes, but not insurmountable." Ruin attacked, his lightsaber work demonstrating why he had survived to become Sith Lord. The duel that followed was not the acrobatic spectacle that Jedi combat often resembled. It was brutal, efficient, two warriors seeking to kill each other through minimum necessary motion. They fought across the market district, their blades carving through stalls and structures, each strike potentially fatal if it connected. But the Emperor was not merely warrior. He was psyker, capable of manipulating reality itself through will amplified by the Force. While his sword engaged Ruin's lightsaber, his mind struck at the Dark Lord's reconstructed consciousness, seeking to sever the hatred that bound spirit to resurrected flesh. Ruin felt the psychic assault and laughed, the sound carrying madness that death had introduced to his psyche. "You cannot break what is already broken, Emperor. I have died once. Nothing you do to this body matters because I have learned the truth. Consciousness persists beyond flesh when hatred runs deep enough. Kill me again, I will return. And each time I return, I will be less constrained by physical limitations, more purely the darkness you cannot truly eliminate." The Emperor's response was not verbal, but experiential. A psychic projection that thrust Ruin's consciousness into memories the Emperor carried from his own galaxy. The Dark Lord saw the Horus heresy, saw Primarchs he had loved turn to chaos, saw the Emperor's own near death at his favored son's hands. He witnessed 10,000 years of the Emperor sustaining the Astronomicon while entombed in the Golden Throne, felt the weight of that sacrifice, understood the depths of commitment the Emperor possessed to protecting humanity. And beneath those images, Ruin felt something that terrified him more than any physical threat. The Emperor's absolute certainty that even permanent resurrection could be prevented if one understood the metaphysical principles that allowed consciousness to persist beyond death. "You speak of returning," the Emperor said quietly, his sword pressing against Ruin's guard with force that cracked Duracrete beneath the Sith Lord's feet. "But you misunderstand what I am capable of. In my galaxy, I have banished demons, beings of pure thought and emotion who should be immune to permanent death. I learned techniques that sever consciousness from reality itself, that prevent resurrection regardless of preparation or power. You believe death makes you invulnerable. Actually, it makes you vulnerable to methods that living beings can survive." The Emperor's free hand moved, not striking physically, but tearing at the dark side energies that held Ruin's reconstructed form together. But he did not simply disrupt them, he unraveled them, traced them back to their source in the dark side's depths, and severed the metaphysical connection that would allow Ruin's consciousness to reform after this body's destruction. Ruin felt his immortality being stripped away layer by layer, felt the technique's elegance and horror in equal measure. "No," he whispered, genuine fear breaking through hatred for the first time. "You cannot. The dark side is eternal. I am eternal." "Nothing is eternal," the Emperor replied. "Not even hatred, not even the dark side itself. You made a fundamental error, Darth Ruin. You assumed that because you discovered one technique for transcending death, that technique was unbreakable. But every metaphysical principle has countermeasures when one possesses sufficient knowledge and will to discover them. The Emperor's sword struck, not at Ruin's physical form, but at the binding between consciousness and body. The Dark Lord's resurrection shattered completely, his spirit torn from flesh and cast into the Force itself, not to gather for reformation, but to dissipate into the cosmic background, his identity dissolved, his existence ending not with death but with total erasure. Darth Ruin ceased to be, not merely dead but unmade, his threat permanently eliminated through technique that Jedi philosophy forbade, because it approached dangerously close to Sith methods of soul destruction. The Emperor stood amid the carnage, 37 civilians dead, 14 injured, the market district reduced to smoking ruin despite his rapid response. He had eliminated the threat, prevented further casualties, demonstrated that even resurrected Sith could not operate with impunity in territories under his protection. But 37 innocents remained dead, killed in the time between attack and response. 37 beings whose protection he had promised, whose faith in his capability had proven misplaced when enemies possessed sufficient determination. Kale Thross arrived with the rest of the custodian response team, his cybernetic sensors already cataloging casualties, assessing damage, calculating resources needed for rebuilding. The Sith are eliminated permanently. Yes. The Emperor's voice carried exhaustion that beings of his capability should not experience. Darth Ruin is erased, his acolytes destroyed beyond resurrection. The immediate threat has ended. But Kyle heard what his commander did not say. But this was message, not serious attempt at my elimination. Someone resurrected Ruin and his followers specifically to attack civilians under my protection, to demonstrate that my power cannot prevent casualties when enemies strike at vulnerable targets, to show populations that depend on me that my protection is incomplete, fallible, insufficient despite all my capability. Commander Drayson moved through the casualties, his military training allowing him to assess injuries with clinical detachment despite the horror. Chancellor Palpatine will use this. He'll broadcast footage across Republic space, show that the Emperor's methods produce the same civilian casualties he claims to prevent. He already has operatives recording, the Emperor replied, his enhanced senses detecting hidden holocams positioned throughout the district. This entire attack was political theater dressed as military assault. Ruin believed he sought revenge, but someone manipulated that hatred to serve broader purposes. Someone who understood that I would eliminate the threat quickly, but not quickly enough to prevent symbolic casualties. Someone who has been orchestrating my isolation since the moment I arrived in this galaxy. Palpatine, Senator Venn said, joining them from where she had been coordinating civilian evacuation. You're certain now? You have proof? I have certainty. Proof requires evidence that institutions recognize as legitimate, and the being we face has spent decades ensuring no such evidence exists. The Emperor looked across the devastated market district, at survivors already emerging to recover bodies, at populations whose faith in his protection had just been tested and found wanting. But certainty is sufficient for action. Chancellor Palpatine is not merely corrupt politician, he is Sith Lord, more patient and dangerous than Darth Ruin ever approached, orchestrating the Republic's transformation into instrument of his will. The pronouncement hung in air like verdict. Kale's cybernetic hand clenched reflexively. Drayson's military mind immediately began calculating implications. Venn's political instinct screamed that accusing the sitting chancellor of being secret Sith Lord was political suicide, even if true. Can you prove it? Venn asked, though she already knew the answer. No. He has hidden too completely, operated too carefully, maintained his Force null appearance too consistently. But I felt him during the Naboo bombing, his satisfaction, his complete lack of surprise. And I feel him now, In this attack's architecture, in the way ruin was resurrected and aimed precisely where his assault would cause maximum political damage while minimum actual threat to me. This is not chance. This is chess played by someone who thinks in decades rather than days. Then what do we do? Kyle demanded. If we cannot prove it, if we cannot expose him, how do we counter an enemy who controls the Republic's central authority? The Emperor was silent for a long moment, his golden eyes reflecting calculations that spanned strategies he had employed across 10,000 years of warfare. Finally, he spoke with quiet certainty that somehow carried more weight than any dramatic declaration. We build an alternative so compelling that populations choose it voluntarily. We demonstrate governance that actually serves rather than exploits. We protect effectively enough that the Republic's failures become undeniable. And when Palpatine makes his final move, when he reveals himself and transforms the Republic into the empire he has been constructing all along, we will be ready. Not to conquer, not to impose our will, but to offer refuge to those who recognize tyranny when it finally drops its democratic mask. In his Chancellor's office, Palpatine watched holocam footage of the Market District massacre with satisfaction so complete he permitted himself a genuine smile. The Emperor had performed exactly as predicted, eliminating the Sith threat efficiently, but not before sufficient casualties accumulated to demonstrate his protection's limits. News networks across the galaxy were already broadcasting analysis suggesting that the Emperor's departure had made populations more vulnerable, not less. Perfect. Every piece moved exactly according to plan. The Emperor was isolated, operating outside Republic protection, building alternative authority that would eventually justify military response. The Jedi remained divided and ineffective. The Senate grew more dependent on Palpatine's leadership with each crisis. In chambers that had waited millennia for activation, technologies that would transform Chancellor into Emperor continued their patient preparation. The game approached its culmination. Soon, perhaps months, perhaps years, but soon in terms of Sith patience, the moment would arrive. The Republic would face crisis that only emergency powers could address. Palpatine would accept those powers with apparent reluctance, and democracy would applaud as it voted itself into extinction. The Emperor of mankind, for all his power and wisdom, become the perfect catalyst for everything Palpatine had spent decades constructing. The Sith were patient, and patience was about to yield ultimate victory. The months following the Taris massacre transformed the Outer Rim in ways that neither Republic nor Emperor had fully anticipated. Where the Emperor established protection, populations flourished. Where he remained absent, chaos continued unchecked. The contrast became impossible to ignore. Systems under custodian authority experienced economic revival, reduced crime, functional governance that actually responded to citizen needs. Systems still loyal to Republic jurisdiction saw continued neglect, corruption, and institutional failure. The migration began slowly, then accelerated. Refugees from Republic space, disillusioned soldiers who had watched their service accomplish nothing, scientists whose research had been stifled by ethics committees, more concerned with philosophy than results, Force sensitives rejected by Jedi or unwilling to submit to the Order's rigid philosophy. They came to Taris and the 6 other worlds the Emperor had claimed, seeking the alternative he promised. Within 8 months of his departure, the Emperor governed 17 systems housing approximately 50 million beings. Not conquest, every system had requested his protection after witnessing Republic inadequacy. Not empire in traditional sense. Local governance structures remained intact, with custodian forces providing security and strategic direction rather than direct administration. But unmistakably a rival authority structure that claimed legitimacy through effectiveness rather than democratic mandate. The Jedi Council watched this development with increasing alarm. Master Over convened emergency sessions attempting to formulate response to what some masters called the Outer Rim secession. The problem was that populations under Emperor's protection were not suffering, quite the opposite. Crime rates had fallen by 70%. Economic productivity increased as infrastructure improved. Educational systems established by custodian administration produced outcomes that shamed Republic equivalents. He demonstrates that authoritarianism works, Master Liranor said during one particularly contentious council meeting. Not through oppression or exploitation, but through genuine competence paired with unwillingness to tolerate institutional failure. How do we argue against results that speak for themselves? By maintaining that results alone cannot justify methods, Over replied, though his conviction sounded weaker than usual. That the means matter as much as ends, that governance through one being's judgment, however effective currently, establishes precedent that will inevitably produce tyranny when that being's purposes shift. Has his purpose shifted? Challenged Master Joris, the pragmatist whose support for the Emperor had never fully wavered. Every report suggests he remains committed to protection rather than exploitation. His warriors train local militias instead of replacing them. His administration transfers authority to civilian governments as soon as they demonstrate capability. These are not actions of tyrant-building empire. They are actions of intelligent tyrant-building sustainable empire, Over countered. The Emperor understands that modern tyranny succeeds through consent manufactured by effectiveness. Make populations dependent on your protection. Demonstrate that alternatives fail by comparison. Establish yourself as indispensable. Then exercise power however you wish because removing you becomes unthinkable. The debate continued without resolution because both perspectives held truth. The Emperor was building authority structure outside Republic control, but that structure served populations better than Republic had for generations. The philosophical question, whether effectiveness justified departure from democratic principle, remained unanswerable because it required choosing between values that should not be mutually exclusive but increasingly appeared so. Chancellor Palpatine addressed these developments in Senate session that drew unprecedented viewership across Republic space. His presentation was masterful, acknowledging the Emperor's effectiveness while framing it as threat rather than example to emulate. The Outer Rim secession represents fundamental challenge to galactic order, Palpatine stated, his voice carrying concern that appeared genuine. Not because the Emperor governs cruelly. By all accounts, his administration is efficient and relatively benevolent, but because he demonstrates that democracy is optional, that populations will abandon representative government when offered competent alternative. If we permit this precedent to stand, we validate the principle that might makes right, that capability supersedes consent, that one sufficiently powerful being can simply opt out of democratic frameworks and establish personal authority. Senator Card, now representing a coalition of Outer Rim delegates whose systems remained Republic-aligned despite temptation to request Emperor's protection, rose in her pod. Chancellor, with respect, the Emperor does not govern cruelly because he does not govern tyrannically. Populations under his protection maintain local self-government. They vote on policies affecting their systems. The difference is that custodian forces actually enforce laws, actually protect borders, actually respond to crises with speed that Republic bureaucracy cannot match. Which proves my point, Palpatine replied smoothly. The Emperor demonstrates that dictatorships can be efficient, that authoritarian structures can produce positive outcomes in short term. But history teaches us that such systems inevitably corrupt, that benevolent dictators eventually become malevolent tyrants, that power without democratic constraints grows until it consumes everything. We cannot permit this experiment to continue simply because it has not yet failed catastrophically. Senator Motnot Rab seized the opening. The Chancellor is correct. We must act decisively Before the secession spreads further, I move that the Senate authorize military expedition to reclaim systems operating under Emperor's illegal authority. Not to punish populations, they are victims of his manipulation, but to restore legitimate republic governance. The chamber erupted in argument that had become familiar over past months. Hawks demanding military action, doves urging diplomatic engagement, pragmatists noting that previous military confrontation had resulted in disabled fleet and humiliated republic. The Senate was paralyzed between recognizing threat and acknowledging impotence to address it through force. Palpatine allowed the chaos to build before calling for order, his timing perfect as always. Senators, military action against the Emperor has proven ineffective. He disabled Admiral Voss's fleet without firing shots, demonstrated capability that conventional forces cannot counter. We require a different approach, not force, but persuasion, not conquest, but competition. He activated holographic display showing proposed legislation. I submit the Galactic Security Enhancement Act. This act authorizes creation of specialized rapid response forces, trained to standards exceeding normal military, granted emergency powers during crisis situations, answerable to Senate oversight through executive chain of command. We show the galaxy that Republic can match the Emperor's effectiveness while maintaining democratic legitimacy. Senator Venn watched the presentation from her replacement's pod. She had been officially stripped of Senate membership following her departure with the Emperor, but her successor permitted her to observe sessions via HoloNet when crucial votes occurred. She saw Palpatine's proposal with clarity that insider perspective provided. "He's building his Inquisitorius," she transmitted to the Emperor via encrypted channel that custodian technology made impossible to intercept. "Everything you predicted, specialized forces that will eventually answer to him personally rather than Senate committees. He's using your model to construct the enforcement arm of whatever he's planning." "Let him," the Emperor replied from Taris, where he reviewed architectural plans for new training facilities that would quintuple custodian recruitment capacity. His forces will be constrained by Republic politics, limited by oversight that will slow their deployment, trained in philosophies that will make them less effective than our warriors. By the time Palpatine reveals his true nature and transforms these specialized units into personal enforcers, the Custodian Order will have established authority across enough systems that his reach cannot extend to all of us. "You're preparing for civil war," Venn said quietly. "Republic forces loyal to Palpatine versus Outer Rim systems under your protection. That will kill billions. Civil war is coming regardless of my preparations," the Emperor replied with certainty that came from witnessing similar patterns across millennia. "Palpatine has been engineering this outcome since before my arrival, perhaps for decades. My presence merely accelerated timelines he had already established. The question is not whether war comes, but whether populations have viable alternatives when it does. We provide that alternative. A third faction that owes loyalty to neither Palpatine's corrupt republic nor whatever Sith empire he plans to construct from its ashes, in chambers far beneath Senate levels that even Republic security forces did not know existed. Darth Sidious, the being who wore Palpatine's face but harbored ambitions that transcended any single identity, reviewed progress reports from across the galaxy. His Sith cult gathered strength in shadows. His political manipulation bore fruit in Senate that granted him increasing power. His agents positioned themselves in key locations throughout Republic infrastructure. And in the Outer Rim, his greatest asset, the Emperor of Mankind, continued building the threat that would justify Sidious's final transformation from Chancellor to Emperor. Perfect. Every variable aligned exactly as decades of planning had designed. The Clone Wars would have served this purpose in another timeline, another sequence of events. But this was better, real threat rather than manufactured conflict, genuine alternative authority rather than separatist movement he controlled. When the moment came to declare himself emperor and transform Republic into his empire, Sidious would point to the Outer Rim secession and argue, truthfully, that only unified authority under single powerful leader could prevent galactic fragmentation. The Jedi would object, of course. They always did. But they were already divided over the Emperor of Mankind, already uncertain whether traditional methods remained adequate. When Sidious moved against them, half would be too paralyzed by philosophical debate to resist effectively. The other half would fight, and their resistance would justify further consolidation of power. Everything was proceeding exactly as he had foreseen. The Emperor stood atop Taris's central tower, looking out across cityscape that now gleamed with lights that had been absent for millennia. Below, millions of beings went about their lives with security they had never known under Republic governance. Markets bustled, children attended schools, workers built infrastructure that would serve for generations. This was what the Imperium had been in those early years before the heresy. Before betrayal, before war, before 10,000 years of stagnation on the Golden Throne. This was the dream that had driven him across the galaxy, conquering in humanity's name. Not power for its own sake, but the simple vision that civilization could function, that populations could prosper, that governance could actually serve rather than exploit. He had achieved it before. Built empire spanning million worlds, united humanity against Xenos and chaos, created the greatest civilization his galaxy had ever witnessed. And he had watched it collapse, watched his sons turn against him, watched the dream curdle into the nightmare that the Imperium had become by the 41st millennium. Could he do better here? Could he build something that would not require his constant presence to maintain? Could he create institutions strong enough to survive his eventual departure without collapsing into the same corruption and stagnation that plagued both the Republic he had abandoned and the Imperium he had left behind? He did not know, but he would try, because 38,000 years had not broken his fundamental nature. He was builder, protector, custodian of human potential. And in this galaxy, with populations desperate for alternative to failed institutions, he would build one final time. Let Palpatine scheme. Let the Jedi debate. Let the Senate pass its resolutions. The Emperor of Mankind had walked away from their authority, established his own, and demonstrated through undeniable results that effectiveness mattered more than procedural legitimacy. When the galaxy's final crisis came, and it would come because Palpatine's ambitions would not stop at mere chancellorship, populations would remember who had actually protected them, who had governed competently rather than democratically, who had prioritized results over philosophy, and they would choose, not through force, not through manipulation, but through simple recognition that some authorities served while others merely ruled. The Imperium Reborn was not yet empire. It was 17 systems, 50 million beings, alternative demonstrated but not proven sustainable. But it was beginning. Seeds planted in fertile ground, watered by competence and protected by power sufficient to ensure their growth. The Emperor had conquered galaxies. He had built empires. He had failed and rebuilt and failed again across spans of time that made civilizations look ephemeral. This time, perhaps, he would get it right. This time, perhaps, humanity would choose wisely. This time. The golden figure stood above a world reborn, watching light spread across darkness that had persisted for millennia. The Emperor of Mankind had entered the Star Wars galaxy through cosmic accident, had tried to work within its democratic institutions, and had learned through bitter experience that some systems were too broken to fix from within. So he had walked away, not in defeat, but in determination, not as conqueror, but as builder. He had taken his vision, his methods, his unwavering commitment to human survival, and established alternative to both Republic corruption and Sith tyranny. The Jedi called it dangerous. The Senate called it illegal. Chancellor Palpatine, or Darth Sidious as the Emperor now understood him to be, called it perfect catalyst for his own transformation from democratic leader to authoritarian emperor. All of them were right. All of them were wrong. The Emperor of mankind had never claimed to be perfect, never argued that his methods were flawless, never suggested that authoritarianism was inherently superior to democracy. He had simply recognized what 38,000 years of experience had taught him, that when institutions fail, when corruption becomes systemic, when procedures prevent action that survival demands, alternatives become necessary. Not permanent, not ideal, but necessary. The galaxy would judge whether his alternative proved better than what it replaced. History would determine whether the Imperium reborn became the civilization he envisioned or the tyranny his critics feared. Populations would choose through their actions whether effectiveness justified departure from democratic principles. But for now, in this moment, on this world, 50 million beings slept secure in their beds, knowing that someone powerful enough and principled enough stood watch. That was not nothing. That was everything his millennia of existence had taught him to value. Let the games of politics and power continue. Let Palpatine scheme, and the Jedi debate, and the Senate deliberate. The Emperor of mankind had chosen his path, not conquest, but construction, not domination, but demonstration that better governance was possible for those willing to abandon comfortable philosophies for uncomfortable effectiveness. The Force whispered through Taris's rebuilt streets, carrying something the Emperor had not felt since his arrival in this galaxy. Hope. Not the blind faith that characterized religious devotion, but earned confidence that came from witnessing competence paired with genuine care for those under protection. It was enough. Not complete, not final, but enough to justify continuing the great work one more time, in one more galaxy, for one more chance to prove that humanity deserved to survive. The Emperor of mankind had entered the Star Wars galaxy. Now he would help it transcend the ancient conflicts that had paralyzed it for millennia. Or die trying. May the Force be with you. More stories await.